Welcome to Reddit Stories, where OP's wife is getting a little too close with a coworker. I think my wife is getting too close with a male coworker. Am I overreacting? My wife, 42 female, and I, 42 male, have been together for 12 years and we have 2 children. Overall, things are good. Like any long relationship, we've had ups and downs, but more recently, things have felt stable. My wife's workplace is quite social. They have almost weekly after-work drinks, and the average age there seems to be early 30s. I've noticed lately that my wife seems eager to keep up with the younger crowd. She's been putting more effort into her appearance, is very enthusiastic about attending social events, and often comes home having had quite a few drinks. I've always encouraged her to be social. That hasn't been an issue. What's made me uneasy recently is that she's been communicating regularly with a younger male coworker who's 29. I'll call him Adam. At the last 2 work outings, Adam picked my wife up from our home and later dropped her back. The most recent time was last week. My wife came home around 11:30 p.m. and was clearly intoxicated. She was affectionate with me, and while I trust my wife to be faithful, I can't help but feel there may be a slight infatuation developing, possibly in both directions. I'll be upfront. I've struggled in the past with retroactive jealousy, which really frustrated my wife. I'm aware she's attractive, especially for her age, and that she gets attention from men. I also understand that it's human to enjoy attention while still remaining faithful. I'm just unsure where the reasonable boundary should be. I've been hesitant to bring anything up because I don't want to come across as controlling, jealous, or insecure. I know those qualities can be damaging in a relationship. That said, my concerns grew recently through a method I'm not proud of. While my wife was in the shower, I briefly looked at her phone. The messages between her and Adam seemed mostly innocent, though somewhat playful. What stood out more was a message she sent to her best friend, which included a photo of Adam with the caption, "This is Adam." The photo showed him working out at the gym and appeared to be taken from his social media. That made me feel she had described him to her friend in a way that highlighted his appearance. Because of how I found this, I feel stuck. I don't want to explain how I know she sent that photo. I truly don't believe anything physical has happened. Still, I'm left wondering where others would draw the line when it comes to emotional boundaries. Outside of this issue, our relationship actually feels strong. We've been more physically close and intimate than usual. On the weekend, she gave me a cuddle, told me she loved me, and actually started tearing up. While that should be reassuring, it's also made me question whether her increased affection could be connected to what feels like a slight infatuation with this younger coworker. I'd greatly appreciate thoughtful input, especially from women, on how to approach this and what most people would consider reasonable boundaries in a situation like this. The gym photo sent to her friend is a red flag. Being driven home late at night after drinking, the increased effort in her appearance, and the frequent texting all start to add up when you look at the full picture. It's possible that she's been more affectionate and emotional because she feels guilty about what's going on. Sometimes people overcompensate when they know a situation doesn't sit right with them. The bottom line is that most married people I know don't put themselves in situations that could create problems in their marriage. As a married man, I wouldn't offer rides home late at night to women who aren't my wife. If my wife had been drinking at a work event, she'd call me or get a ride with another woman. You can trust your spouse, but trust also means transparency. If something is bothering you and you bring it up respectfully, your partner should want to reassure you and talk it through. Marriage is a commitment to be open and communicative. Too many situations start with "trust me" and end with regret. If you want to prevent misunderstandings, you have to talk about them early. If boundaries are crossed after that, it becomes a choice. Update 1 month later. Unfortunately, things have taken a turn. After taking some advice from the comments on my original post, I decided to talk to my wife about feeling uncomfortable with her being driven home by Adam after social drinks with colleagues. My wife dismissed my concerns, saying she only likes Adam as a friend and treats him like a younger brother. I didn't mention anything about looking at her phone earlier, so I was surprised when she volunteered that she had sent photos of him to a friend. She explained that they were discussing whether he might be suitable to set up with another younger female friend of theirs. She also made it clear that she didn't want this to turn into a situation where she wasn't allowed to have male friends. I told her that I understand and support her having male friends. However, from my perspective, it seemed obvious that Adam might be interested in her and that she could be unintentionally encouraging that. Overall, the conversation stayed calm, but I could tell she was frustrated with my concerns. This happened just before New Year's. I'll add that our relationship otherwise felt strong during this time. We were spending more time together and felt very close. That changed the weekend after New Year's. My wife had planned to meet up with the same friend she had sent Adam's photo to. As usual, I stayed home with the kids and waited for her to return. She told me she wasn't planning on a big night, but she ended up coming home around 1 a.m. She was dropped off by her female friend and explained that after dinner, they learned some of her work friends were out at a bar, so they joined them for a few drinks. She listed several coworkers who were there, and at the time, I didn't think much of it. Later, though, something felt off. She kept repeating the names of the people she had seen, almost as if she was emphasizing them. After a while, I asked if Adam had been there. She paused and said that he was, but only briefly, and that she hadn't known he would be there. I pointed out that she hadn't mentioned him earlier. Feeling unsettled, I asked whether he had messaged her, and she showed me their recent messages. Those messages showed the two of them discussing which bar they were meeting at. I explained that this contradicted what she had just told me. She responded by saying that she didn't know he would be out until she received that message, and that she was actually glad because the younger woman she hoped to set him up with was also there. I didn't push further that night, but the next morning, after thinking about it, I felt that she had been deliberately misleading. I told her that it felt dishonest to say she had no idea Adam would be there, given that they were messaging about where to meet up. While I know her coworkers often socialize as a group, the fact that the coordination was between the two of them made it feel personal. Since then, things have deteriorated quickly. My wife changed the pin on her phone that same night. I'm now sleeping in the spare room, and it feels like our relationship may be over. I'm being blamed for damaging the relationship due to jealousy and lack of trust. She told me that her coworkers laughed when she mentioned my concerns because of how ridiculous they are. I'm being portrayed to friends and family as controlling and insecure. My wife has said the reason she wasn't fully upfront about Adam being there was because she believes I read too much into things and she didn't want to create tension when she came home. At this point, she feels we should continue living in the same house for a few months for the sake of the kids while we figure out what's next. I know Reddit often encourages people to separate, but I can't help but wonder if my wife is right. Maybe my jealousy is excessive. I've been cheated on in the past, and maybe that history affects how I see things now. I don't want anyone else. I don't want to lose my family. But when trust feels broken, I don't know what the right path forward is. I feel lost and deeply upset. She sounds checked out, to the point that she's discussing and laughing about your marriage with her coworkers. The fact that she's telling everyone that you're jealous is a major breach of marital trust. Things in the marriage are not to be shared outside of it. That alone would be enough for me to seriously question what's going on. You did what you could. You clearly communicated your discomfort, and she continued messaging him and meeting up with him without being upfront. That's not respecting your boundaries. Trust your instincts and don't ignore the pattern. Either she enjoys the attention or something more inappropriate is happening. At some point, you have to protect yourself and stop minimizing what your gut is telling you. She changed her phone PIN the same night you caught her in a contradiction about where she was and who she was with. That's a major red flag and seriously undermines her version of events. Beyond that, she got ahead of the situation by controlling the narrative and portraying you as jealous and unreasonable. That kind of blame shifting is a common response when someone doesn't want to be fully transparent. At the very least, this looks like an emotional boundary being crossed. If it were truly harmless, she'd be focused on reassuring you, rebuilding trust, and setting clear limits. Instead, she's willing to let the marriage hang in the balance. That tells you a lot. This is painful now, but you won't always feel stuck or alone. Focus on your self-respect and long-term well-being. It looks like a tough situation now, but in 1 year, you will be chill and dating someone better. Good luck. When someone says, "You're imagining things," but then starts changing passwords and rewriting timelines, that's not reassurance. That's damage control. Right. Boundaries aren't about control, they're about respect, and secrecy is where respect quietly dies. Trust wasn't lost by asking questions, it was lost because the answers didn't line up. And if protecting a coworker's feelings comes before protecting a marriage, the problem isn't jealousy, it's priorities. Would I be the jerk for not naming my baby after my dead father-in-law? My husband and I are expecting our first baby. We're very excited, but it's been dampened by the obvious gap in our family, my father-in-law, who died 2 years ago. My husband is about to become a father, and his role model, his dad, isn't here. It's been a very intense few months as we prepare. I'm 30 weeks along, and we still don't know the baby's gender. We want to find out when we meet our kid. Still, I want us to have a few names ready to go. The issue is that my husband is insistent that we name the baby after his dad. The problem is that this is the name my father-in-law didn't even like. He felt it was old-fashioned and didn't suit him. Him disliking his own name was like the third thing I learned about him. He was very vocal about it. My husband won't budge. If it's a boy, he wants to give him father-in-law's exact name, first, middle, and obviously last. If it's a girl, he's open to a feminized version. Think Thomason or Joanna. But worse, because those are actual names, and there are really no feminized versions of father-in-law's name. He's also not open to a similar name or variation. Think Calvin to Alvin. And to be honest, I don't like my father-in-law's name either, and I also have family members of my own that I'd like to honor with this baby. I've suggested using my father-in-law's first name as a middle name, regardless of the baby's gender, but my husband refuses. It's first name or bust as far as he's concerned. He's told me that he will have a very hard time forgiving me if I don't let him memorialize his dad in this way. Part of me wonders if I should just give in, maybe on the condition that I get full naming rights for a second child if we have one. But another part of me feels strongly that this should be a joint decision. I'm the one carrying this baby after all. I should have a say. I know he's grieving, and I know becoming a father without his own dad is incredibly painful for him, but I still feel like forcing this name isn't right. So, would I be the jerk if I held the line and refused to make my baby's first name my late father-in-law's name? Edit. I'm not going to share the actual name because I don't want to be easily identified, but my father-in-law felt that his name gave the wrong impression of who he was. He considered it very old-fashioned and religious, which doesn't fit him at all. He was a staunch atheist and often joked that he wished he had been given almost any other name, if I'm being honest. Although he disliked it, he always went by his given name or slight derivatives of it. He didn't realize until later in life that changing his name as an adult was even an option. Other relevant context. My mother-in-law and father-in-law were divorced, and she's not supportive of naming a grandchild after her ex-husband at all. My husband is an only child, which adds to his feeling that his father's legacy rests entirely on him. We did have a shared baby name list before I got pregnant, including compromises that honored both sides of the family. My husband only began pushing for his father's full name after I made it through the first trimester. Update. I got a few really good ideas for how to approach this with him, so I'm feeling more hopeful than I was yesterday. He's usually not like this. I know he's scared and grieving, and because my father-in-law didn't believe there was anything after death, I know my husband is trying to feel close to him during this huge life moment. Hopefully I'll be able to come back with an update that our baby ends up with a name that better reflects my father-in-law's actual spirit, rather than one he never even liked. Naming a child should always require 2 yeses. Grief doesn't override your partner's right to have a say, especially when the name in question wasn't even loved by the person being honored. Using a middle name is a meaningful compromise. Forcing a first name because of grief puts unfair emotional pressure on both you and the child. Children are not memorials. Honoring someone's spirit matters more than copying their name, especially when that name carried baggage. Update 20 days later. A few people suggested that while waiting to find out the baby's gender is a wonderful idea, knowing might be more helpful to my husband emotionally at this point by making the baby feel more real, if that makes sense. Those comments really stuck with me, and that's ultimately what we decided to do. I'm thrilled to report we'll be welcoming a son into our lives and home, and shortly after learning that, my husband turned to me and said on his own, Hey, we can't name him father-in-law's name. We've had several really good conversations since then. I know it's a thing right now for women to come online, complain about their husbands, and then be like, no, he's great, I swear. But the stubbornness he showed earlier was truly out of character for him. He's been processing a mix of joy and deep sadness since I got pregnant, especially knowing his role model for fatherhood will never meet our children. He admitted that he thought naming the baby after his dad might somehow make the distance between life and death feel shorter. He's now planning to start grief counseling to help manage those feelings before the baby arrives. We went back to the baby name list we created together before we even conceived. Our top contender shares the same first initial as my father-in-law's name, with my grandmother's maiden name as the middle name. It feels like a real compromise, and even my mother-in-law is relieved that her grandchild won't be saddled with a name her ex-husband disliked. Thank you all again for your kind words and affirmations. You weren't only a sounding board, but you gave me really great advice, and my marriage is stronger today for it. I can't thank you all enough. It's really nice to read a happy ending for once. Grief and parenthood colliding like that can't be easy, and it sounds like you both handled it with a lot of care. Congratulations on your baby boy, and best of luck to your growing family. This is such a good outcome. Grief shows up in strange ways, and it says a lot that your husband was able to step back and reflect on his own. Starting counseling and finding a compromise that honors your family without forcing it feels like the healthiest possible path forward. Wishing you both the best. Naming a baby should not feel like carving a headstone. Exactly. A child is a future, not a memorial plaque. Grief can really blur judgment, but it doesn't get to override consent. And the best honor is a name chosen in love, not pressure. My friend is mad because a random guy didn't serve her. A few days ago, I went to a dinner party with my friend. It was at a Chinese restaurant with big round tables. We sat at a table with about 10 people. She found one guy there attractive. He was a friend of a friend, so they didn't really know each other, and she wanted his attention. The guy was chatting with his friend when my friend waved and interrupted their conversation. She asked him to get some extra tableware for her. The guy called a waitress and said, "Please get some tableware for that lady." Then he told my friend, "I asked the waitress to bring it for you," and went back to chatting with his friend. After that, my friend started complaining endlessly, saying the guy was ridiculously impolite. I asked her why. She said the guy was rude for not getting the tableware himself and for just sitting there and asking the waitress instead. She was also angry that he kept talking to his friend as if she wasn't important. My friend always thinks she's very beautiful, but clearly, not every man finds her attractive. This sounds very entitled. If someone did this to me, I'd probably have done the same thing. Even royalty have better manners than that, so your friend definitely doesn't get a pass. Also, she assumed he was single and interested in women. And her calling him rude? Wow, that's a lot of projecting for someone who just interrupted a stranger mid-conversation and demanded that he do something for her. I probably would have assumed she thought I worked there. That's literally something you ask the staff, not another guest. Him saying, "I asked the waitress to bring it," feels like a polite way of saying, "I don't work here, please stop bothering me." Even if the wording was awkward, the message was pretty clear. Update 3 days later. After the party, she wasn't just complaining about the guy. She was also upset that no one asked her out, no one asked for her number, and basically, no man approached her at all. This morning, she messaged me details about a dating event and asked me to go with her next week. I refused because I'm not interested in dating events, and I already have plans with my boyfriend that day. She got angry and blamed me for being so selfish and only spending time with my boyfriend and letting her stay single. I was too shocked to hear. Does she think she's entitled to my time and weekends? I told her I wasn't going. I also told her that if she really wanted to meet someone, she could use dating apps or go to events on her own instead of pressuring me. Then she said, "I want a guy, but I don't want to go to the event alone and look like I'm the only single woman. You have to go with me and help me get a boyfriend. Otherwise, I'm not going, and it will be your fault that I stay single." I didn't reply. I've known her for 2 to 3 years, but it feels like the longer she stays single, the more entitled she becomes. If this continues, I don't think I'll want to stay friends with her. She doesn't want a boyfriend. She wants an emotional support +1 to carry her ego into the room for her. You're not her wingman, her therapist, or her confidence clutch. If she can't go to a dating event alone, she's not ready to date. She's mad that she's single, mad that she has to admit she's single, mad that no one is approaching her, and mad that you won't fix it for her. That's not bad luck, that's bad energy. Nobody's obligated to date someone who treats other people like NPCs. Update 4 days later. Today, she finally changed the topic and said she was lonely and that she hoped my boyfriend and I could go to a barbecue with her. I thought maybe she had learned that she shouldn't pressure me, and she sounded vulnerable this time, so I asked my boyfriend what he thought. He agreed to go together, even though he doesn't like her much. Oh gee, I wonder why. So I told my friend to plan the details. Later, she sent her plan. There was a huge shopping list, and she expected my boyfriend and me to buy everything. The list included very specific food items like seafood and organ meats that aren't easy to find at regular supermarkets. I told her that this was very inconvenient for us and that we don't even eat most of the food she listed. She argued, "You two have the whole morning to prepare the food. You know I wake up late. Just get everything and come to my door at 2 p.m. to pick me up." My boyfriend refused to pick her up and suggested she buy her own food. She got angry and said we weren't caring for her. My boyfriend said it wasn't our responsibility. She said, "I'm single, so of course it's your duty to take care of me." I told her, "We're not going to the barbecue. Please enjoy your time," and ended the conversation. I don't think she's really a friend anymore. At some point, you have to stop explaining and start blocking. She's not confused, she's entitled. You're not her emotional support animal, her dating coach, or her personal assistant. You tried being kind, she tried making you responsible for her life. That's the line. Just block her and move on. "I'm lonely" does not translate to "it's your job to fix my feelings." "I'm single" does not translate to "you owe me your time, money, and your boyfriend." She's not a friend. There's a reason everyone else already left. My neighbor expected my stuff for free because I'm moving. I was in the middle of a sudden move to another city. This wasn't one of those slow, planned relocations where you have months to prepare. I was given short notice for a new job opportunity, and turning it down wasn't really an option. I needed the income, and the start date meant I had to relocate fast. Between new rent, transport, and basic setup costs, money was tight. Very tight. I didn't have the luxury of moving everything with me, so I decided to sell some of my belongings instead. Not expensive items, just furniture, kitchen items, and a few electronics, all in good condition. I priced everything lower than I probably should have, not to make a profit, but because I needed the items gone quickly, and the money would help cover the immediate costs of the move. I told a few neighbors in the building in case anyone wanted something before I listed everything online. One neighbor showed a lot of interest and asked about a couple of items. I gave him very fair prices, honestly cheaper than what I would have gotten elsewhere. He came over, checked everything carefully, tested a few items, asked several questions, and then asked how much I wanted. When I told him the price, he paused, nodded, and said it was fair. Then, almost casually, he laughed and said, "Since you're moving away anyway, why can't you just be kind and give them to me for free? At least I'll remember you for that." It caught me completely off guard. For a while, I wondered if he was joking, but he kept staring at me, clearly waiting for an answer. I explained that I was moving on short notice for work and that I needed the money to cover the costs, which was why everything was already discounted. I tried to keep my tone calm. That's when his attitude shifted. He frowned and said, "You won't need these anymore once you leave, and kindness doesn't cost anything." He said it slowly, like he was explaining something obvious to a child. What bothered me wasn't just the comment, it was the assumption, as if my urgency, stress, and financial pressure somehow meant I owed him something, like my situation was supposed to benefit him. Still trying to keep things civil, I told him I was already being kind by pricing the items fairly. Giving them away would be generosity, and I simply couldn't afford that right now. He sighed, looked around my apartment again, shook his head, and said he'd think about it, as if I was the one being unreasonable. Then he left. He never came back. I sold everything within a couple of days online and to other neighbors and used the money to help pay for the move. Funny how people stop valuing kindness the moment it isn't free. So this guy inspected everything, agreed that the price was fair, then tried to pay in memories? Ah, yes, the classic currency of entitlement. Very rare, very useless. Because nothing says, be kind, like volunteering someone else's wallet. My girlfriend got hired at the airport and drove her vehicle into a plane on her second day there. A couple of months ago, my girlfriend started working a new role for airport ground operations, which involved driving around and getting some certifications. The day she started, her company made a LinkedIn post with a picture of her about how she was the first woman joining the team and also encouraging other women to apply and get the certifications. Literally, the day after, she messed up badly at work and crashed a vehicle into a plane. No one was hurt or anything, but the plane was damaged and a flight had to be delayed. It was really silly since she accelerated when she thought she was braking and made it worse. The same had actually happened to her while driving on the road once when she rear-ended a car. It's been a few months since that happened, and I obviously didn't say anything to make her feel too bad at the time. However, we were just talking about it in conversation, and I mentioned to her that I found it pretty funny that she messed up the day after they made that LinkedIn post celebrating her new achievement. I thought that since it had been a while, we could laugh at the irony together, but she called me a jerk and accused me of making her confidence worse. She now works at a different job in retail, so it's not like she's still working there. I'm guessing she'll soon be your ex-girlfriend because the level of detail you provide in this post outs both of you and will further humiliate her. In addition to which, you're posting this on Valentine's Day. You're toast, dude. Your girlfriend may not be the world's best driver, but she can probably Google and has friends, family, or colleagues on Reddit. You're the jerk. Upvote this guy's post so that everyone can see what a major jerk he is. Don't downvote it. Let the girlfriend find it so she can become his ex-girlfriend. There are better jokes to make than making fun of a mistake someone you care about did. So, a big deal was made about her being the first woman at a particular job. She messes up badly right after, and apparently the job did not work well at all because she's now working at a new job a few months later. Sounds like it was a bad and embarrassing experience for her, and you found it pretty funny? Yep, you're the jerk. You're the jerk. The only reason to make that joke is to make fun of her. Not the jerk. Don't take Redditors seriously. They're a bunch of sensitive specimens roaming the earth with the internet. The accident was funny. These people need some backbone. Chronically online Redditors in their mommy's basement have no life to stress out about, so instead they freak out about every single little thing here. I'm a woman in my 30s. I laughed out loud at this story. People need to get a grip. And please stop making darn LinkedIn posts until you can go 2 days without crashing a car into a plane. Really? That's funny. If this were in a movie, I'm sure people would laugh at it. You're the jerk big time. This was just cruel of you, not funny. How about she makes a joke about an incident where you were not good at performing in your love life, and you were ashamed of it? Would you still say that she is not the jerk? Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his girlfriend? Please let us know. Life's a lot more enjoyable when we can laugh at jokes about ourselves. Ain't that right, Balloon Boy? Yeah, my comeback would be that the pilot was too slow and should have gotten out of my way. Ex-girlfriend wants to place our baby up for adoption, but I'm not sure if I can. I'm 23. My ex-girlfriend is 20. We met in college. I've since graduated, but she has 2 years left. She's 21 weeks pregnant and wants to put the baby up for adoption. She was around 14 weeks pregnant when she told me that she was pregnant. We had already broken up 2 months before that, and I honestly had no idea that she was pregnant. She said she needed space to make her own decision, and that's why she never told me. From the moment she told me she was pregnant, I told her I would support whatever decision she made. I respect that it's her decision. I feel guilty that I got her pregnant. I'm internally panicking at the idea of a baby, and the idea of being a father is wild and unreal to me right now. But when she told me she was planning to put the baby up for adoption, it felt like a gut punch. She's already connected with an adoption agency and looking at possible adoptive families. In no way do I think she should be forced to be a parent. I would never want to contribute to that. I completely understand her reasoning. It's just making me feel sick. She seems as content as she can be with this decision. She knows that this is the right decision for her. I don't know if I can consent to it. I started researching contested adoptions. I think it's sort of crazy, and I'd have to be willing and prepared to completely support and parent the baby on my own and be able to prove it. I feel guilty thinking about coming in and ruining all of her plans. Maybe it wouldn't be fair to anyone for me to do that, but I'm becoming more uncomfortable with the idea of adoption every day. I haven't told her yet that I feel this way because I know it took her a while to come to her decision, and even though she feels it's the right one, it's also a highly emotional thing for her. I spend a lot of time trying to rationalize why adoption is the best thing for everyone. Why don't you ask her for sole custody? Ask if she would be willing to waive her all parental rights and you won't ask for child support. That way, you can both go your separate ways. OP. Once I make any sort of suggestion like that out loud, I have to be 100% committed. It's my understanding that the court system is extremely reluctant to terminate a parent's rights and financial obligations, even if both parents agree to that arrangement. It's not as simple as just signing away her rights. If you're not sure you can be the kind of dad you need to be, you could opt for an open adoption where you have some rights to visit your kid. An adoption lawyer would advise you more on this to see if it's right for you. OP. Open adoptions are not guaranteed to remain open. So you're prepared to support her decision, except if she decides to adopt the baby out. You are prepared to legally contest her decision to adopt the baby out. But you are not prepared to request sole custody? Basically, you want her to raise the baby while you can be as involved as you want to be? Meanwhile, she doesn't want to be a single mother with a part-time dad in the background. It comes down to two options. Either you want to be a full-time dad, or you support her decision to adopt the baby out. OP. I'm trying to support her adoption decision. I didn't realize I'd have such a hard time with it. I've stated multiple times that I understand if I contest the adoption, I'll need to be prepared to take on full physical responsibility for the baby. I'm trying to determine if I can really do that or not. It's not something you can just change your mind on later down the road when it gets tough. I'm not asking her to raise the baby whatsoever. I don't want to do that to her, and I've said that more than once. He's 23. He doesn't have a good job. He's just starting out. Sometimes something is too crazy and is the wrong decision. My perspective is that of growing up, and yes, I do mean growing up, around people who did have kids from 20 to 27, and it's more than just hard and crazy. Some parts are actually impossible and others are super unfair to the kids and everyone involved. OP. I have a decent job with benefits that includes paid parental leave, but I'm just starting out. I make $60,000 in an entry-level job in my field. There's definitely potential to make over $100K. I don't live in an extremely high cost of living area. Update 5 days later. My ex and I are in regular communication. We don't talk every day, but we text every few days. She told me she can't find any adoptive parents that feel right yet. She really wants me to start looking at the stuff the adoption agency has sent. She asked if I had looked, and I told her I skimmed some stuff, but it doesn't really make me feel good. That was my opening to tell her I'm really not sure how I feel about adoption, and I'm having second thoughts regarding my own desire to parent my kid or not. She asked me what I was really trying to say, and I tried to communicate that I'm not saying she should keep the baby and be a parent right now. I understand why this is the best decision for her, but I'm not sure if it's the best decision for me. She said, "What? You're going to be a single dad?" I told her, maybe. It's not that crazy. She said it is crazy and, "Don't do this to me." She basically feels like if I do that, even if I don't hold it against her, she's still legally the mom, and suddenly she'll be this horrible deadbeat parent who isn't involved with her kid at all. By placing the baby with another family, she breaks the legal ties and she doesn't have to feel like she's quite as crappy of a person. Even my own mom is unsure of how to feel about what I'm considering doing, but she would support me. She understands my feelings about not wanting my kid to be raised by other people, but worries that I'm biting off more than I can chew. She still supports me 100%. She thinks it's crazy, but she also thinks I can do it if it's what I want. I admittedly cried like a baby about it to my mom, and in true mom fashion, she thinks that I need to follow my heart. Picture what you want for your future 5 years from now. What does it look like? OP. I didn't originally picture myself having a 5-year-old 5 years from now, but I have started to sort of be able to picture it. I always thought I'd like to be married and have kids in my early 30s. I never really liked the idea of waiting until I was over 40 to start a family. Definitely thought there would be a little more time before that happened, but it doesn't feel like the end of the world to me. By law, she can't put the baby up for adoption if you don't agree. That's also your kid, and a paternity test will also help you out with that. Please consult with a lawyer. Request a paternity test that's court mandated, and your lawyer will lead you in the right direction. OP. I really want to request a prenatal paternity test, which I understand is not admissible in court, but so that I know for sure before getting in too deep. She isn't talking to me right now, so that's not happening. I do not think she's lying about me being the father, but this is the type of life-changing thing where you really should have absolute proof. Update 2, 7 days later. I've decided to pursue custody of my kid and will not be consenting to an adoption. My ex-girlfriend may or may not still try to pursue adoption. There's no way to know right now because she hasn't talked to me since I told her I was uncomfortable with adoption and exploring my own options. I have a consultation with a lawyer next week. In the meantime, I contacted the appropriate local county health departments. I can add myself to the putative father registry in the current state she's in. I've already downloaded the form and will get it notarized and sent off on Monday. This will do nothing to establish paternity, but it will hopefully mean that I should be notified should she try to place our baby up for adoption without informing me herself. The other state, the state she's from and where her family lives, doesn't have a putative father registry. I'll still need to establish paternity as soon as the baby's born. That is, if she even informs me when she gives birth. I'd really like to be there or be able to get there as soon as possible, but I really have no clue what she's thinking or planning at this point. I think I have a pretty clear understanding of my options for establishing paternity, and I'm hoping that by then she'll be willing to sign an affidavit establishing me as the father. Otherwise, I'll need to go through the courts. In an ideal world, she would agree to a prenatal paternity test. I do believe I'm the father, but it would be nice to have that definitive assurance before I completely turn my life upside down for this. Since she's not even talking to me currently, I can't ask her for that right now. Maybe once she has a chance to process things, we'll be able to talk about this more and she will cooperate. If not, I can't force her to do anything and may have to wait for the test. She's really stubborn, so I can see her digging her heels in. I'm leaving her alone right now, but I will communicate my decision to her after I speak with a lawyer. She's around 23 weeks now. It feels like her due date is still a long ways away, but now that she's at the point of seriously looking at and interviewing potential adoptive families, I felt like I couldn't wait much longer to make a decision and move forward with it. Plus, it's going to take me at least that long to figure out some of the logistics. I previously had no clue how expensive daycare is, or that wait lists are often months, or sometimes even more than a year long. I need to save money, start budgeting, maybe even considering moving closer to family. I haven't figured anything out beyond just making the decision, but that was probably one of the hardest parts. Update 3 weeks later. So I'm 23 years old and I'm going to become a single dad to a newborn baby girl around the end of January. At this point, the baby's mom, my ex-girlfriend, doesn't really want to be involved at all. Legally, I'm covered. I've met with a lawyer and I'm covering my bases there. My ex is very mad at me for ruining her plans. She hates me. I'm not trying to ruin her life. I sympathize with how she feels and I understand why she chose adoption. I'm not trying to make her life more difficult than it needs to be. I just need some practical advice to help me prepare here, to prepare me for the initial stages, how to survive. I have support from family and friends. None of my friends have kids, and they all think I'm crazy, but they respect my decision. 3 months later. My ex-girlfriend gave birth to my daughter on New Year's Day and didn't inform me until today. I'm so upset that she would do something like that to me. I had asked her to please let me know when she went into labor so I could do my best to get there ASAP. We broke up before she told me she was pregnant, and now we live in different states. She already told me she didn't want me in the delivery room, and I didn't fight that. I was disappointed at the idea that I wouldn't see my daughter being born, but in the grand scheme of things, it was something I could live with. She told me she'd tell me when she went to the hospital so I could prepare. Today, she sent me a picture and said our daughter was born on New Year's Day. She wasn't due until the end of January, but she is healthy and only spent 1 extra day in the hospital. The baby went home with my ex-girlfriend and her parents. She said it's only fair that she got a few days with her before I knew, since I'm taking our daughter away forever. I've told her that if she changed her mind, I would rearrange my life, job, home, etc., because I'm not going to live states away from my kid. She's trying to act as if I'm the bad guy taking her baby away now. I don't feel prepared yet. I mean, I felt like there was nothing else I could do to prepare and it was just a waiting game. But now I feel like I really need the extra few weeks. I wish somebody would just knock me out with a sedative until my flight out there because I'm just buzzing like crazy with all the emotions. My mom was supposed to come with me since I plan to stay there for a few days before traveling home, but due to the unexpected timing, my sister is coming with me. I just have a bad feeling about how dealing with my ex will be moving forward. I have a lawyer and already have things in motion to protect myself and my daughter, but I had just really hoped we could keep things amicable. I feel like I've done nothing but try to be nice and understanding every step of the way. 1 month later. I've only been at home with her for a few days, and I'm still getting settled in here. During the second week of January, my sister and I traveled out to where my ex-girlfriend lives, and I met my newborn daughter for the first time. It was awkward to say the least, with her whole family staring at me and silently shooting daggers at me. I felt like a jerk, but had to remind myself that I'm not taking our daughter away from her mother. She's choosing to not be directly involved. I've told her that I understand if she changes her mind. I've left the door open for her. It's just not a situation you really prepare for. I was so happy to meet my daughter, and all of these people staring at me were so sad. So I sort of hung around there for a little while because it felt wrong to just take the baby and leave. I was waiting for a cue from my ex to indicate she was ready, and eventually she told me to please leave, but that she would want to see her again before I left town. I rented an Airbnb because I planned to be there for a few weeks. Because I wasn't able to be at the hospital within 72 hours of the birth to fill out all of the appropriate paperwork as originally planned, she and I had to go to the local health department to file a paternity affidavit. She willingly went and signed everything. The baby's last name will now officially be changed to mine, but my ex picked out the first and middle names, and I chose not to argue. As far as custody goes, the paternity affidavit allowed us to agree to share joint legal custody. I had to submit to a court-approved paternity test as part of that, no big deal. She does not actually want joint legal custody. She wants to give me full legal and physical custody, but the form only allows us to officially establish joint legal custody. She has full physical custody because that's just how the law works there. I was already aware that this would be the case, and my lawyer is working on filing the appropriate forms in court to amend everything. We both want me to have physical custody since I will be the primary caregiver. I'm opening a court case. I've explained the steps we have to take, and she understands. This is how the process works there, and even though we're in agreement right now, nothing is legally enforceable until there's a court ruling. At this time, she's in agreement and claims that she doesn't plan to fight it. She just wants to get it over with. I told her that she may want to think about it because it feels like she's just trying to rip the Band-Aid off as fast as she can now. I know sharing legal custody could really backfire on me, but I just want her to feel sure. I got the sense that she wasn't sure, but was just trying to follow through with a complete break. I feel like I'm on thin ice right now. All I have is a signed, notarized letter of consent to take my daughter out of state, so I'm anxious to get all the official legal proceedings done. I don't think I'll be able to relax fully until then. The baby herself? She's perfect. She's so small. Everyone warned me not to get too many newborn-sized clothes because she'd grow out of them so quickly. But the newborn clothes are still a little big. I think her features are becoming more noticeable now, but the only trace of me that I sort of see is her eyes. I look at her, and it's like my heart just wants to explode. She's the tiniest, cutest thing I've ever seen in my life, and this is my kid? It still doesn't feel real. I'm still getting used to saying my daughter out loud when I have to call to make appointments. I think she has colic. During the early part of the day, she seems happy and able to nap and doesn't cry a ton. But around dinner time, she starts screaming and will cry almost nonstop for hours. She throws up like you wouldn't believe. The only thing that semi-soothes her is being out in the stroller and rolled back and forth over and over. She was just switched over to a special formula, but I think it's too soon to know if it'll make a difference. I had colic too, apparently. A year ago, I never would have imagined any of this. It almost feels like I'm watching somebody else from the outside. I washed my wife's stuffed animal that she's had since childhood, and I think I destroyed it. My wife has a stuffed animal that she's had since she was born. We'll call it Teddy, even though it's a dog. Anyway, she loves that stuffed animal. It is, well, was her favorite thing. Her grandmother, who passed away when my wife was 10, gave it to her, and it kind of has been her security blanket throughout her entire life. When my wife's mother would stress her out, she would clutch this thing and just cry. She told me on more than one occasion her mother tried to throw it away as she got older. She had to dig through the trash and save it and hid it from her mother until she was away at college. At one point when she was younger, her mother threw it in the dryer, which messed up the hair, and laughed when she gave it back to her. Her mother wasn't a nice person, but that's neither here nor there. I'm just trying to tell you the connection she has with Teddy. Whenever she's been sick or had an injury or a surgery, Teddy has been in bed with her, comforting her. Anyway, a few weeks ago, my wife found out she was pregnant. We haven't told anyone yet, hence this throwaway account, and we've been trying to keep my wife healthy throughout flu season. She works as a teacher, so we've been trying really hard to be sanitary. Long story short, Teddy was filthy, Just absolutely disgusting after years of cuddling, sweat, tears, drool, and the occasional trash dive. I've been after her for years to wash the thing, but she was against it because of the dryer incident. I was finally able to convince her last night that it was time to wash it for her health's sake. We washed it on delicate and then put it on tumble dry. The tag was so faded and frayed, you couldn't read the washing instructions. But our dryer is a piece of junk, and Teddy got caught somehow and was ripped apart inside the dryer beyond repair. My wife is absolutely devastated, and I feel so ridiculously guilty. I kept apologizing and she kept crying. She took the day off work today, partly because she's having bad cramps from her pregnancy, partly from the sadness of losing the favorite thing from her childhood. She was in bed this morning crying because she was sick and also because she didn't have Teddy there to be with her. I feel like I really messed up here. How do I fix this? Is there a way to fix this? How do I make it better? Edit. A friend of her family is a professional seamstress and said she could get Teddy back right as rain. I would have taken up one of the Redditors who offered to do it for free, but the convenience of this friend is too good to pass up. She also said she wouldn't charge us. So not only should Teddy get fixed, he should be good, and we don't have to worry about him being lost through shipping. The wife has hope, but it's tempered at the moment. I'm excited to see how it turns out. I showed her this thread and all the support that came with it, and she was moved to tears. If the seamstress doesn't get it all together, then she will entertain the Build-A-Bear idea. Thanks again, guys. Update. Teddy is patched up and he's clean. Seriously, thanks to everyone who offered to help. The fact that so many anonymous people on the internet were that invested in helping out my pregnant wife was amazing. She got him back over the weekend from her family friend, and he looks great. We also got her on some new prenatal vitamins that don't have iron in them, so she's feeling less sick all the time, so that's good too. I'm taking a half day to take my wife to the doctor for our first ultrasound later today. I kicked my soon-to-be ex-friend out of my house. Kendall, 25 female, and I met in university in 2016. We studied different majors, but we're in the same department, so we shared many classes together and bonded over our passion for gaming and memes. Upon graduation, Kendall moved back to her hometown due to lockdown and found a job there. We kept in touch online through Instagram. About 3 years later, Kendall told me that she found a better paying job in the city I live in, so she's planning to move out of her parents' place. When I asked her about her plans or her accommodations, she replied with, "That's the thing. I was going to ask if you have an extra bedroom that I could move into." For context, I inherited an apartment from my late grandfather, which is a nice 3-bedroom, 2-bath near the city center last January, and I currently live alone there since it's closer to my workplace and it has all the convenience of public transport. After some thinking, I thought that there's no harm in letting Kendall live here since I considered us close friends. We discussed the terms and of course the rent. A week later, Kendall moved into my apartment. It was great at first. My home felt more lively than usual, and the thought of going home to a close friend warmed my heart and gave me a sense of security. Things were okay for a while, and then crap went downhill quickly. Kendall started complaining about many things at home, about her work, her savings, and how she feels homesick. At first, I was very accommodating, thinking maybe she just needs time to get used to the city life. I offered as much help as I can, even to the point of if she's low on money, I don't mind voiding a month's rent if it meant I could help her to achieve financial stability. I taught her how I save money, how I lived off my salary with several commitments like my car, my dog, and a student loan. I grew up where my parents expect me to be independent, so I told her things I do when I'm low on cash, how to get freelance jobs, etc. But she always seemed to have excuses for every suggestion I had. Finding a freelance job is too hard, or how she couldn't let go of her premium junk food, that she isn't willing to cook or meal prep, and I eventually decided to leave it as it is. And after 2 months of living together, I realized Kendall started treating me as some kind of competition. She would constantly ask me things like how much money I make a month, how many job hoppings did that take. Anything that she thinks she's better than me, she'll definitely pop the question. She boasts about how she's loyal to her crappy paying company, and how I would never be able to move up the corporate ladder, as she called me an industry frog. She once snooped my savings balance and asked how did I save up so much money with commitments, etc. Mind you, she didn't have a lot of commitments since her parents paid off her student loans and fully paid off a brand new car for her, and maybe I should stop collecting rent from her. I got mad and told her if she isn't happy living with me, maybe she should move out. Cue crocodile tears as she said it was a joke. I didn't have to take her seriously. She begged for forgiveness and promised to never snoop my personal items and details again. I let it go once, but she kept bringing things up like, "Well, you have the cash and credit card," every time I told her that I'd rather stay home because I no longer have the budget to go out and have fun. Comments like these became more frequent when I got a new job 6 months ago. On top of that, she doesn't clean up after herself, tried to flirt with my boyfriend, and at times parked in my parking space when our initial agreement was that she had to find her own parking space if she's moving in with her own car, because my apartment only has one parking lot per unit. The straw that broke the camel's back was what I caught her doing to my dog when I got home from work. I yelled at her and rushed to check on him. Luckily, he was fine, but I still rushed him to the vet for safety measures. I got home and she sneered that it was just a dog, and as a friend, I shouldn't treat her like that. I asked her why she did it, and she didn't answer me. She shrugged and tried to escape into her room. At this point, it was already about a year since Kendall moved in with me. I lost my cool and told her off, bringing up her problems and how I tried to be nice and accommodating. Then I told her I'm giving her a week to move out and that from then on, I'd rather we keep our relationship casual or we don't ever talk at all. Kendall cried and begged me to not kick her out, but soon it turned into her screaming back at me, calling me a bad friend because apparently in her words, I didn't tell her off on how badly she was behaving. There was a lot of back and forth, which I don't remember what was said, but I remember eventually calling her an entitled brat. She cried again, saying it was uncalled for, and stormed off to her room. The next day, I was bombarded with texts from other uni friends calling me selfish and others sympathizing with me. Apparently, Kendall posted our argument on Facebook and Instagram, painting me as the bad guy. I was upset at first, but I decided that after Kendall moved out, we would no longer be friends, as well as those who took her side in the story and condemned me. Last week, Kendall left, and I've changed the locks on my apartment. I curl up in my bed and cry myself out, probably from the sadness of losing a friend, or maybe I'm finally letting out all of the frustration. I'm definitely still grieving about this loss of a friend, as I've had many good times with Kendall. For now, I want to focus on myself, and hopefully I'll eventually get over this. Update. I've been doing well, and surprisingly, as some of you mentioned previously, I'd gotten over the loss of this friendship rather quickly. My boyfriend planned a trip to a pet-friendly beachfront hotel, and I spent a few days with just my boyfriend and doggo. We played in the seawater, and I watched my dog play in the sand. Overall, we had a great time, and we even had grilled fish together while watching the sunset. Doggo had a deboned fish fillet. I'm also grateful for my friends who stood by my side regarding the issue. They check in on me from time to time and sent me funny content to watch during my free time. Some of them even told me their stories about Kendall and their discontentment with her behavior, which I will list some below. Friend A. Kendall ridiculed Friend A several times because Friend A earned less than Kendall, despite he had worked a year longer than Kendall. Friend B. Kendall trash-talked Friend B's company via Instagram just because Kendall flunked her interview with said company with flying colors. Friend C. Kendall always demands Friend C to be her personal driver during our college days. If Friend C refuses, Kendall will guilt trip her. Friend D. Ruined Friend D's assignment by pranking him. She actually formatted his laptop when the project was due in 2 weeks. When confronted, all she said was, "Oopsies." There are many more, but these are the more icky ones I've read from my friends. And now with that out of the way, here's today's main course. After I kicked Kendall out of my house, one of my uni friends, let's call her Anne, stood by Kendall's version of events and had allowed Kendall to move in with her instead. Anne called me out of the blue this afternoon, and her first question to me was, "How on earth did you manage to put up with Kendall for a year? She's driving me crazy." Long story short, whatever Kendall did when she's living with me, she now does it to Anne, snooping Anne's personal items, leaving dirty laundry around, generally being a pain in the backside. Anne told me she's planning to force Kendall out of the house too. I didn't comment much since Anne was among those who called me a cruel person, but now it's come back to get her. But wait, that's not all. According to Anne, Kendall lost her job because she tried to ask for a 100% increment and assaulted her supervisor when the increment request was turned down 2 weeks ago. She was immediately escorted out of the office building by security, and she just texted me 20 minutes ago saying she needed a favor from me and that she wants a job at my workplace. I replied stating there isn't any vacancy. To be honest, even if there is, I wouldn't hire her. So yeah, I hope this is the last time that I will hear from Kendall. Asking my girlfriend to give away her cat because I'm allergic. To give some background, my girlfriend, female 23, and I, male 24, have been dating for almost 2 years, and I asked her to move into my apartment. It's much larger than hers, so it made sense. Having decided to move in, she brought her cat, Riley, with her. She's had Riley for 8 years now, and it brought her tons of happiness. The issue is, I'm allergic to cats, like super allergic. I develop hives, I start coughing, and I get these really watery eyes. I didn't know this was a problem before we moved in, as while we were dating, she used to just come over to my apartment as it was close to both the school she started to work at and my university. I'm in medical school. I would occasionally get watery eyes when she was around, but I always just chalked it up to pollen as it was never severe enough to care. Now though, it's getting to an extreme level. That being said, I know how much she loves Riley, so I tried to find the best homes I could that would take her in. All of them are either people we knew or people who have a lot of experience with cats. I made a list, and then I told my girlfriend the problem. When I asked her to possibly give Riley away, she said she wasn't giving Riley away to an animal shelter. I said of course I would never make her do that, and that's when I showed her the list with all the families. I proposed this to her, and that's when she just lost it at me. I don't know what I did wrong. Am I the jerk? You're the jerk. You should never ask someone with a pet to just get rid of them like that. Pets become people's family. Go back to living separately and see a specialist about your allergies. My niece started a fire that damaged my home, and now her parents refuse to pay for the damages. I rent out my house through a service that includes insurance when it's in use. The insurance does not cover when I lend my house out to friends and family since they're not paying me. I have regular homeowner's insurance for that. My brother was using my home with his family just after New Year's. It's a slow time, and I wasn't going to lose out on much income. My niece stayed up late one night and didn't go out for breakfast with her family, so she decided to make herself some food. She started a kitchen fire. She freaked out and called 911 instead of using the fire extinguisher in the kitchen. She's 14, so I can't blame her too much. The smoke damage will cost about $8,700 to fix. I told my brother he could take his time paying me back. He said he wasn't going to pay for an innocent mistake. I needed the house in order, so I just fixed everything. I didn't go through insurance because I didn't want my rates going up. I was obviously upset, so I posted about the fire and how upset I was with my brother. Pretty much all of my friends and family took the side of the innocent angel. They said it was unfair of me to expect that much money from him when he could have rented a hotel for a quarter of the price. So I agreed. I said that from now on, my house was off limits unless they rented it out or if I was there and they came over as my guests. Since I only use the house with my family, that means they can rent it or they can only use the empty bedroom. It has a twin bed and a crib. Now the howling started that I'm being unfair to them for something that wasn't their fault. I offered to take up a collection from them to cover the repairs or the increased insurance premiums, and most of them shut up. I directed them all to my brother. He got quite angry at me for blaming him for the situation. I said I wasn't about to send a mob after my niece. I bought the house after I got a settlement from a worksite accident. I used the income to supplement the difference in what I used to earn at my old job and what I do now. So I guess my question is, am I the jerk for telling everyone who has a problem with me charging rent or stuffing a family into a room meant for 2 kids to talk to my brother about it? Not the jerk. Your brother deserves to be the one dealing with the flack. If I were him, I would have at least offered to pay the increased insurance premiums, or that amount monthly until the repairs were paid off, if you didn't go through insurance. He's the one who wrecked it for everyone, and anyone who took his side, I would not trust in my house. Am I the jerk for ruining my flatmate's anniversary weekend and crossing his girlfriend's boundaries? My 22 female roommate, 22 male, is my best friend and he has been for years. We've lived together for 2.5 years and it's genuinely the best living situation I've ever been in. We love to hang out and we have a very close relationship, often talking for hours on end. 2 years ago, he started seeing Rachel, 21 female. Rachel and I get along very well, often drinking together and watching movies without my roommate. I consider her one of my best friends. Rachel is also frequently at my flat, often spending 4 days there at a time. The problem arose a week before their 2-year anniversary. Rachel asked me to leave the flat that my roommate and I share for the weekend because they celebrate their anniversary over 2 days and she wants to be alone with him. She wants me to sleep in her bed at her flat that she shared with her 2 other flatmates. I pushed back against this as I have a weekly call on Sunday, and the Wi-Fi in her flat is terrible and would make the call quality extremely poor. She agreed to let me stay home on Sunday and says that she'll make her bed for me to sleep in on Saturday. All is well. Then Saturday comes. I'm at the library writing my dissertation with a good friend, and I get a text from Rachel telling me that she's sorry, but that she forgot to change her sheets for me to sleep in. She asks me to instead go sleep at another friend's house. I say that I don't want to do that, as this friend's house is very far away. She gets very upset with me and says it will have to be Sunday instead. I again refuse, as this is the day that I have my weekly call. Rachel absolutely blows up at me. She says that I have violated her boundaries and that she can't believe that I've done this to her. She says that I'm acting like her very cruel and mean mother. She berates me for the other time that I came home after she told me to stay at another house, and that was another boundary crossed. I'm astounded at this. The reason I went to my house was I was being followed by some guy in the dark. I even sat outside of our door for 30 minutes and was planning on staying there for a few hours to give them their space until she opened the door to let me in. I immediately take it back and say that I'll go to her house for both nights so they can have a special weekend. Since this has happened, she has not spoken to me for 4 weeks. I have repeatedly reached out to her to apologize, but I've gotten literally nothing back. She's come over to my flat a few times in the meantime, but has ignored me when she walks to his room. There was even an occasion where I was hanging out with 2 of my friends, and she ignored me and had a conversation with the 2 of them in front of me, even arranging for them to hang out later again without me. Though I still feel bad, my friends have told me that I've done nothing wrong and that she's being a jerk. Plus, she has no right in general to order me out of my house. So Reddit, am I the jerk? What does your roommate have to say about this? OP, he's very adverse to conflict. There have been massive friend fallouts that he has sat out of because he doesn't like to pick sides. He just never thought this would bite me in the backside like this. But yeah, he hasn't said anything, and I'm not really expecting him to. She's a user, gaslighter, and is taking advantage of you. Talk to your roommate and don't apologize again. OP, I guess I thought that I was breaking a boundary I didn't understand. It's reached the point where my roommate needs to be brought in. I'll talk to him tomorrow and sort this out because I'm really tired of being a stranger in my own home. You're right about me missing a backbone. I thought I was doing something nice and ended up being a pushover. This is an absolute wake-up call. My roommate has said nothing. He's super adverse to conflict and normally it's fine, but this has just gone too far at this point. She probably walks all over him too. OP, yeah, a thing I didn't mention in the post is that during this 4-week period, he and I were hanging out together in our living room, she was in his bedroom, and she whistled for him. Yeah, like a dog. So he stood up and went to his bedroom to be with her. She's been treating him poorly, and I really don't like it. Is she jealous of your relationship with him? 1. Nothing that I've noticed. We've been best friends for 4 years, to the point where people wouldn't refer to us as one person, and we tend to cuddle a lot, which I could see as upsetting her, if not for point 2, which is, I only date other women. I love him a lot, but it's purely platonic. Even when we met, there was never a hint of anything. Update. Well, good news and bad news. Me and Rachel are no longer friends, and her and my best friend are over. When I sat down with my flatmate to finally talk about how hurt I'd been feeling about the whole situation, he listened to my feelings and he was supportive of me, placing down boundaries about our home. He apologized for not calling her out, saying he had no clue how to get between me and her. Then he left and told me he was going to talk to her about everything and get it sorted, which I really appreciated. Communication really is key, I guess. Cue to me waiting about 4 hours. I figured they must have been talking for a while, but I won't lie, around hour 3, I started to get worried. When he came back, he was incredibly despondent and upset. When he went over to talk to me, she had broken up with him. The second he brought up how upset she had made me, she told him that their relationship was over. Apparently, Rachel had been feeling for a while that they had a highly codependent relationship and needed a while to figure out how she can be on her own. She also said that every time she wasn't with him, she started having severe anxiety, even on the level of panic attacks, which is why she hated me being there when they were on dates and why she didn't like me spending time with them. He was deeply shocked and asked her why. She responded, "She gets to see you 24/7 and I only get a few hours. She's being selfish with your time and mine." Whoever asked if she was jealous was right on the money. She also revealed that she had hated me since we met, labeling me as not a person she would ever hang out with, and hid that from me and my best friend for years. She said that this is a break and that she still loves him and wants to get back together with him, just later. Personally, I don't see that happening. My best friend is heartbroken and deeply hurt by how she approached their relationship and me. When I asked if he thought this was a break, he responded, "No way." She came back over the same day to pick up some stuff from our flat. Just as I was about to close the door on her, I said, "I think it's obvious to both of us that we're not friends and probably never were." She just shrugged. I'm sorry, but anniversary or no one tells me I can't come back to my own home that I'm paying for. OP's roommate dodged a howitzer there. Good riddance. Am I the jerk for telling my wife that I would choose my mom over the birth of our baby? So to get started, I'm 36 male and my wife is 33 female. We're expecting our first baby soon. My mother, who is 70, was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer and has been hospitalized since it's so bad, doctors say that she won't survive since treatments aren't working well for her. My dad passed when I was young, and my mom took care of me while working 2 jobs so that I could have a good life. I feel I owe everything to my mother. I bought her a house and whatever she needed so that she could live her older years well, since we had to struggle so much. When I got home from work and visiting my mom, my wife and I were talking, and she asked if you got a call that I was in labor or your mom was going to pass, who would you pick? I told her I would pick my mom. She asked why, and I told her that I wanted to be there to say goodbye to my mom since I would never get to see her again, and so she would have somebody there in her final moments. She got mad and said, "What about her and our baby?" I told her I would try to be there as fast as I could after my mom, but that most likely that wouldn't happen, so I told her not to worry about it. She was still mad and told me to get out of the house. I left, and now I'm staying at my mom's house. So Reddit, am I the jerk? Edit, to everyone saying that I would be leaving her alone. No, I wouldn't. She would have her mom there since she has said she wanted her mom to be there with her. Yes, I was right for leaving my house. It was either I leave or she go, and I was not about to put my pregnant wife out of the house. Yes, I have been there for her. I have taken off of work to comfort and help her in any way she needs during this pregnancy. Edit 2. I keep getting the same question about why did I leave my house even though I may own the house. It was late and I didn't want my pregnant wife out late at night, but she told me to leave, so I knew it was either me or her. 2. My mother is in the hospital. She's not at her house. 3. I thought a lot about what a lot of you said about how I should put her first, but she doesn't put me first at all. She chooses her sisters over me all the time. 4th, I do not make her feel second. I've put my wife first, especially in emergencies, and I've tried my best to comfort her. I've gone home, and now I'm thinking I don't need to apologize. What do you think? I just don't know. You got kicked out of your house for getting a hypothetical question wrong. On face value, you're not the jerk, but what's likely happening is that your wife isn't feeling the support and love she really wants and needs right now. Is she a super needy, controlling person, or simply feeling a tad neglected, hormonal? I think you need to consider the why she asked the question and address that. That's the problem. The hypothetical question and hurt reaction is simply how it plays out. Get out of your mom's house and go fix this. Leaving her home alone isn't going to help. Sleep out in front if you need to. Bring lots of apologies too. You were not kicked out for a bad answer here. There's a feeling of loss and something missing that your wife isn't feeling and needs to as soon as possible. Figure that out and go give it to her. You give her another version of it every day for the rest of your life. Go find… How do you people come up with this stuff? Go find out what part of love your wife doesn't think she has. Don't become a you're the jerk and sleep at your mom's house. OP. No, she's not a needy, controlling woman. I never thought about that, but I did plan to go home and apologize today and ask her some questions about it. Have you missed important appointments or not helping out around your own house as much? Making your wife feel like she's alone for her to ask questions like that? OP. No, I've been to all but one, and that's because she forgot to tell me about it. When I come home, I wash the dishes from dinner and clean the floor. Usually she prefers to cook. I have taken off a lot of days to help and comfort her through this, so maybe I could do more. I don't know what else to do, but I will ask though. It's a hard choice, but I'd still say not the jerk, as long as your wife does actually have another plan for getting to the hospital and someone to support her. If not, the situation is a little iffy. Chances of both happening at the same time are quite unlikely though, so here's hoping you don't actually have to choose. OP. Yes, she does have support. Her mom and sisters live close to us, about 5 minutes away. They would be able to drive her. Update. I went back home yesterday afternoon. She wasn't there. I assumed she was at her mom's house. She came back in the evening and we had a talk about what happened. She did apologize for asking the question and that when she thought about it, she understood my answer because she would do the same. I asked her why she asked. She said she didn't know and thought I was going to pick her since I normally do. I kinda just said okay and moved on. I did tell her I want marriage counseling after or even before the baby is born. She asked why. I told her how I felt and she denied it, so I had to give her proof. Then she started crying and got mad and told me to sleep in the guest room instead of kicking me out, so I guess I got a win there. You call that a win? Anyways, she also told me that she no longer wanted me in the delivery, which I was fine with. I understand to an extent where it's coming from. I will go into therapy, which was suggested, and I think I do need it. Anyways, that's it. Thanks for the advice y'all gave, some good and some bad. And sorry if my comments came off as mean. I'm not really a friendly person till you know me, especially if you're accusing me of something. You would be fine with not being there to see the birth of your baby? Really? OP. No, but it's her choice. I can't make her let me in there. You could have told her it's a priority for you, that you're sorry too, that you guys were talking hypothetical, and that the chances of your mom passing on your kid's birthday are very slim. You could have tried to make her see that it's important to you. Just accepting it would make me feel like you just don't care. Also, you could have been more understanding, taken accountability, and apologized to her before you brought in marriage counseling. OP. I did tell her that she is a priority, and she did see it's important to me because she would do the same. And we did all that. Why do all y'all want me to argue with a pregnant woman? Please tell me you're in therapy. Please. OP. I have made an appointment with one. Update 2. I read a lot of your comments, and I did apologize, not for bringing up marriage counseling, but for the timing I brought it up, and that I did show her proof. She did forgive me and told me that I was still not going to be at the birth of our baby. I said to her that it was okay and that I had accepted it and I wasn't going to fight her on her choice. I did tell her that I think she and I both need some space before the baby comes, to which she agreed. I told her I would leave and that she could have the house, and that if she needed anything to just call or text me. No, I'm not at my mother's house. I'm at a friend's house. He doesn't live there anymore, but he usually rents it out. To all of you asking, why don't you kick her out? It's because I'm the only person who makes money in the house, and I know especially now that if I kick her out, it will be called financial, emotional manipulation, or even mistreatment. So it's better a lot of times if I leave. Yes, I do plan to go back home when the baby is born, and to someone who asked, I do plan to take paternity leave. No, she does not know where I'm at. She didn't ask, so I didn't tell, mainly because her family would be banging on my door. To people who I know are going to ask, why aren't you fighting harder to be in the delivery room? I've learned that some things I cannot control, and one thing is, if she doesn't want me in there, then I won't be. Lastly, to people who are saying they need more details, I'm not used to just randomly talking about myself. It's been that way since I was a kid. I've gotten better since I was a kid, but it's still a struggle. So if you have a question, give me a specific question, because I'll answer. And about the divorce thing, I do care if she divorces me. I do love her, but I can't control how she feels. So personally, I won't beg her not to. I will suggest that we get help, but if she doesn't want to, then that's fine. I'm secure. What I mean by that is, she will get nothing in the divorce. Does she know that? I don't know. Final update. I have good and bad news. So I will start with the good news. My wife had the baby on January 26th. It's a girl, and I love her so much. I wanted to name her after my mother, but we found a compromise, and her middle name is my mother's name. To the questions I'm going to get about was I in the delivery room, I was not. I did ask, but I got a no, and she said she had already told her sister and that she couldn't hurt my feelings. Which, okay, by then I had stopped caring. The bad news is my mother passed. She passed a week before my baby was born. A decent bit of her friends came to the funeral, and if you go back up a sentence, I said I had stopped caring a lot. She didn't come to the funeral. She made stupid excuses, and I just said forget it. It was nice though. I'm mad that she wasn't there when I needed her, so I haven't been talking to her as much, so I won't yell at her. We talk about the baby and her, and other than that, we don't talk. I'll bring up marriage counseling in a few weeks from now, but for now, I'm just going to focus on my baby. Both of these people suck, but he might suck a bit more. You don't play around with hypothetical questions like that because that's crappy. Everything he did was crappy too. What did he do? Go to his dying mother? What a jerk. Leave the house when she demanded him to instead of forcing his presence there? What a meanie. Suggesting marriage counseling and getting banned from the delivery room for his efforts? Someone call the police. How was he acting crappy? She's the one with the princess syndrome and lack of empathy, who was playing sight games and using their baby's birth as a tool for punishment and revenge. The part that makes me the most upset about these stories is how some people let others push them around. Like, even if you're married to somebody and even if they're pregnant, you can't allow people to treat you like this. Am I the jerk for talking about my perfect pregnancy and making my sister feel bad? I'm 24, female. My sister, who's 29, has an 18-month-old baby girl. Her pregnancy was very rough. She was very sick. Her husband and her separated in the middle of the pregnancy, and she didn't have a lot of support from our parents, which isn't their fault. They were low contact before she got pregnant because of some stuff my sister and her husband had done. Lately, they've gotten back in touch again, and they're fixing their relationship. I'm 35 weeks pregnant as well, and my pregnancy wasn't entirely hard. My husband and I have a good relationship, even better now, I'd say. My relationship with my parents and our siblings has always been good too, and besides some minor inconveniences, my pregnancy has been great so far. My mother is planning to move in with us for 1 or 2 weeks, we'll see, after I give birth to help me out, which is something she didn't do for my sister. We were discussing this last Saturday because our parents had a family dinner and both of us were invited. Our parents and our sister-in-law, brother's wife, were asking me about my pregnancy as well and if we were preparing for the baby. I don't feel like we were only talking about me and my baby, like we were all having normal conversations about work, politics, football, stuff we regularly talk about. However, when I was telling them about my last checkup, my sister told me that it's not right to brag. I asked her what she meant because I wasn't bragging at all. She told me that talking about how good and perfect my pregnancy has been so far is bragging. Once again, I told her I'm not bragging. My mom backed me up on that. Well, as soon as our mother spoke, my sister blew up. She accused me of being mean, of being a golden child, of wanting to drag the attention back to me, of being overbearing, etc. She said that I'm enjoying that she and her daughter are second-class citizens to our family because she's sure that everyone will spoil my baby as they spoil me. That I'm faking weakness to gain sympathy and have everyone pampering me. I told her to not blame me for her mistakes because if she didn't have a great support system, it's because of her own fault and not mine. She called me a selfish and spoiled brat, and I called her a bitter and envious jerk. She also had a fight with our parents and my husband. Lastly, our dad told her to leave. My husband and I stayed a bit longer, and we were all talking badly about her, I admit that. Now that I'm thinking about it, I wonder if I made a mistake. Our whole family is rethinking if they want to go low contact with her again, so I don't know. I'm just doubting myself. Edit. The problem our family had with her is regarding some inherited jewelry from our grandmother. She pawned them to go on an expensive vacation with her husband. She got some of it back, but lost a necklace that had been in our family for generations. We all love our grandmother and really valued these things since they were important to her. And she never acknowledged her mistake or apologized, which is the worst of this. Because if she had at least apologized and said that she was very sure that she'll be able to get the items back, then it would have been different, I think. She knows she hurt us, but never even apologized for hurting our feelings and our grandma's memory. And all of this happened before she got pregnant. This was just the last straw for our families to go low contact, since my sister and her husband constantly disrespected our family's feelings over and over again. Edit 2. I don't understand why everyone seems to be judging one thing about the necklace when we were already fixing that. I didn't ask for judgment because of that issue. It's because of this other issue during dinner. One of our brothers is no contact with her and her ex since they refused to pay for the car he sold them. They had agreed on a price, but then they stopped paying. As for the comments, it was all kinds of things that were meant to hurt. There's also the petty things like complaining about food when they came over for dinner, not helping pay for a big dinner when we all agreed to it, and the rest of us had to cover their part as well. Not the jerk. Redditors are obsessed with the idea that kids can do no wrong and parents are always at fault. If your sister really pawned the family jewelry for an expensive vacation, then she can't expect to receive all love from the family. And no way you guys are defending the heirloom sale like you guys are privileged if you view heirlooms as indispensable. Everyone sucks here. She's definitely taking her anger out on you, but man, your family sounds lovely. You can be upset with her, but man, you can't expect to rebuild a relationship with her when you guys literally talked crap for a long period after she left. I may not get along with my sister all the time, but I don't talk crap about her the second she leaves. Makes me wonder if she's correct about you being the golden child. Did she get treated less than when you were growing up? And P.S. You may be upset that she sold family heirlooms, but they were hers to sell. She didn't steal them. It sucks and I get it, but I wouldn't destroy a family over heirlooms. Karen takes my credit card and gets upset when caught. Backstory. My husband and I have now been married for almost 18 years. My mother-in-law is the most entitled, choosing beggar I've ever known. I have many stories, so if y'all like this one, I will add more. First time posting, be nice please. Cast. We've got me, we've got hubby, and we've got mother-in-law. When my now husband and I were engaged, we had one credit card that we used for emergencies or small things. We were buying a house, getting married, so he paid it off so we would have it if needed for house. All good. Nope. Statement for the card came in and showed thousands of dollars in purchases, including Disney World tickets for 3, with all of the accoutrements, stereo system, clothes, computer and desk, several semesters of college for one of his younger brothers, and more. Hubby was mad, called credit card company, and they stated it was on his second card. He tried to explain he did not have a second card. That is when they revealed that he had signed for a second card on his application. Hint, he didn't. Apparently, EntitledParents saw him put application in mailbox. He lived on grandparents' farm that had main house and a few trailers for family to live in. Once he left, she opened it and marked for a second card for herself and put it back in. So, prior to our engagement, hubby was paying almost all of EntitledParents' expenses as he was the oldest of 5 and felt responsible for them. Dad divorced and stepdad left. Once we became engaged, and especially once I became pregnant, he told EntitledParent he couldn't anymore as he had his own family to take care of now. EntitledParent did not take this well. She took that second card and took 2 siblings to Disney World and everything else listed above. Hubby stormed into EntitledParent's kitchen and demanded the card. Some is paraphrased as this happened a while ago, but this is mostly how it went down. Hubby, give me the credit card, now! EntitledParent, what card are you talking about? Fake, confused expression. Hubby, the one you signed for yourself and just spent thousands on. EntitledParent, oh, I was gonna wait until your birthday and give it to you as a present. And well, now you ruined it. She wanted more time to go shopping. I'll bet. Give it. Now. But now. EntitledParent hands over credit card grudgingly, and hubby promptly cuts it up, making her very upset. He tells her that was supposed to help us through with the house, wedding, and pregnancy. We decided to go for the trifecta, and now we were thousands in debt, and she needed to pay us back. I don't have that kind of money. I'm your mother, and you needed to help me. Hubby, I have my own family now. We are your family. Payment, now! So EntitledParent called in his youngest sister and youngest brother, who was developmentally delayed, to write hubby a check for $100 from each of their accounts to pay for their trip to Disney World, and gave us another $100 in loose pennies. We never got another dime. Had to wrap pennies every day for a week to return them before change machines were available, and the bank only took wrapped, signaled, and dated. Fast forward 3 years. She comes over to our tiny 2-bedroom apartment and tells hubby, what happened? You used to be so good with money. I had to get in front of him and told her to leave before she got hurt. Never saw him so angry in my life. So, that is how we ended up with $10,000 in credit card fees, including late fees. He wouldn't press charges because it was his mom. I have so many more stories too. Next we've got, fire me? You're all losing your jobs. After uni, late 2018, I fell on rough times and was forced to move back to my hometown. I tried to transfer my job to a branch in my area, but failed. Thus, I needed to get a new job. I settled for a 20-hour-a-week job at a Bookies with a second bartending job in the evenings. The Bookies is the target for my revenge, which was entirely accidental. Involved are the following: Janelle, my manager's manager; Shay, my manager; George and Gordon, my coworkers; and Kara, a coworker at another store who is relevant later. Names changed and/or redacted. I ended up working behind the counter as a customer service manager, basically a step up from a cashier. It's fancy when seen on a CV, but there's nothing really to it. I took bets, chatted with customers, helped people with machines, and for the vast majority of my shift, sat around waiting for something to do. I got on well with my coworkers, or so I thought, and had no major issues. It was 20 hours a week, about £1 more than a minimum wage job with a lot of overtime required of me and irregular shift patterns. Though I had no issue with the job, beyond how difficult it was to juggle the schedules of both of my jobs. In February of 2019, after working for the company for 6 months, I was invited to a probation hearing. It cannot be emphasized enough that it was a probation hearing in which I would have my performance reviewed and, as informed in training, was entitled to a pay raise at the end of it. I arrived that morning to a disciplinary hearing where, without even a shred of evidence, I was accused of 11 different cash discrepancies dating back to early November of 2018, shortly after I had started, which all amounted to £271, all but one of which I had never heard of before. These had apparently been reported and logged by my manager, Shay, and my coworkers, despite no one saying a word to me at all. Not a whisper in the 5 months this had apparently been occurring. I was told that it was unacceptable. A call was made to HR, and I was terminated on the spot and forced to hand over my keys and to never set foot in the store again. To my protests, I was told the decision could not be appealed and I would eventually receive written confirmation of my employment's termination in the post. I didn't let myself slump around and feel sorry for myself, so on the way home, I opened up Indeed and applied for a bunch of jobs, and before I arrived home, had an interview set up for the next week at what is my current place of work. Now, I was furious, fuming at having gone to what I thought should have been a normal probation meeting and having, effectively, been called a thief and been banned for life from a place I'd never go to anyway. But somehow, my parents were angrier and ordered me to let them know when they got into contact with me again. Almost 2 weeks later, I received an email from the company's HR which reiterated the accusations and stated again that I was terminated. My mom sat me down in the kitchen and walked me through a letter response that was 2 parts professional and 3 parts scathing, ripping into them about their unprofessional conduct, their ludicrous claims, their lack of evidence, the holes in their story, because there were quite a few, and finally, the cherry on the cake, the employment laws they had broken. Now, I didn't want much, just a nice reference, a promise that not a whisper of these accusations would turn up when my new job asked them for a reference, because by then, I'd already been offered the job. I then attached the letter to an email to fire back at their HR department. Then I added Janelle's work email, then her boss's email, and finally the holding company that owned the brand, because I wanted to make sure this was seen. A bit of background. The Bookies I worked for is a brand that is owned by an international company. Their name, behind the scenes, is slapped on everything, and they pretty much dictate everything we did. I'm not sure if holding company is the correct term, but I'll stick to that for now. Anyway, I sent this email with a 48-hour window for a response. I received a reply the next day from the same email that my demands were being met. I smirked victoriously and moved on with my life, happy to wash my hands with the entire ordeal. However, I'd set off a chain reaction that I wouldn't know about until 3 months later. 3 months on, I'd settled into my new job, a call center position with double the hours and well over double the pay. I'd gone through training and was settling into my new position when I see a new set of trainees settling in near my team. Among them was Gordon, one of my coworkers from the Bookies. I was stunned.
Gordon had been at the bookies for 6 years when I joined. He was well liked, good at his job, and a favorite of the managers. There was no way he'd been fired. Though I didn't really want to talk to him, as I was of the impression that he, George, and my manager had likely set me up, I did want to know what happened. Luckily, on seeing me in the break room one shift, he sought me out and told me everything. Apparently, my email had been read by the higher-ups in the holding company and had caused a lot of scrutiny to fall onto the bookies in our town, of which there were 3 in our area that Janelle was responsible for, 2 in my town and a 3rd in a neighboring one. Someone in HR passed a message down to the area manager, Janelle's boss, claiming they wanted things investigated and they wanted results yesterday, causing him to drop everything and descend on our little town with the panic and aggression of a man whose superiors were watching his every breath. He went to Janelle wanting to know why he hadn't been made aware previously that I was apparently stealing money, why I had been given keys to the shop and shifts on my own when allegations of that nature were attributed to me, and why I hadn't been put under investigation. Turns out, Janelle had, in fact, put in my employee file that I was under investigation, but had never actually gone through with any of the official procedures for monitoring and investigating me. Thus, she had fired me for the accused crime without looking into it at all, falsely claiming otherwise. Thus, the area manager took the dates and amounts of the cash discrepancies, confirmed that they had been reported on those days without my knowledge in Shay's own logbook of the shop's cash, and sent that information onto our security team to investigate. Another little detail is that the CCTV for every shop in the brand is outsourced to a private security company who monitors each shop remotely and has access to all the cameras and video. As was procedure, they looked into the dates mentioned to see if I'd been doing anything. I know I wasn't, and nothing was ever said to me. But they did find something. Turns out money was going missing from the shop, but surprise, surprise, it wasn't me, but George and Shay. They not only set me up, for reasons I will never know, but were also falsifying numbers and cash checks on the system to hide it. One thing Shay was caught doing was deliberately shortchanging customers by taking portions of their winnings without them even knowing it. Bear in mind, a lot of our customers were elderly men and women. Gordon claims that he once opened the shop after I and Shay had closed the night before and noticed a cash difference, but had been told not to say anything to me as I was under investigation and it could compromise it. He did apologize and I let it go. Needless to say, George and Shay were fired. But it doesn't end there. Our team was small. Including me, there were a total of 4 people working at the store. As they hadn't been able to hire anyone to replace me, George and Shay's termination meant Gordon was the only employee at the busiest shop in our area. Even if they'd been able to get other colleagues from the other 2 shops to help out, it wouldn't have been enough to keep the shop open and manage the amount of customers. So they closed the location down until they could get the staff to run it. It was at that point that Gordon handed in his resignation and applied for his job at my work, meaning they had no one. On top of that, Gordon's girlfriend worked in the same shop as Janelle, and she relayed that she was rarely at their store, in the other town, for the next few weeks before the area manager reported she was fired as well. No reason given to her. I was later issued an apology for everything by the area manager and informed she, Janelle, was no longer with the company in an email sometime later. But somehow, it doesn't end there. With the store I worked at closed, this one being on the high street and where most people prefer to go, the other location in town was the much smaller location in the suburbs, the one where Kara worked, alone. She suddenly received an influx of customers into her tiny store space and absolutely no support from other staff or upper management. Thus, for her own mental health, having already been overworked and underpaid, running an entire store by herself, she quit, meaning that location had to be closed down too. All of this at the worst possible time, March, when the Cheltenham Festival was occurring, which is a huge moneymaker in that industry, even in a small town like ours. An opportunity the 3 other bookies on the high street reaped the benefits of instead of my old place, as the former customers went to them instead. As it currently stands, just over a year later, both shops remain closed and I'm currently entering a job in cybersecurity, the training for which I paid for with my current job. Thank you for firing me, jerks. You did me a favor. Next we've got, customer doesn't understand how receipt lookups work. I work behind the return desk at a decently large retail store. I deal with every type of customer imaginable, the kind ones, the rude ones, and the especially rude ones. It was 2 to 3 weeks ago when one of these especially rude customers rolled in with a return. Multiple returns, rather. Right off the bat, I knew I was in for a treat. I was in the process of reticketing items previously returned on my desk, leaving little to no space for any more items on said desk. That's when this customer comes and slams her bag of returns right on top of everything I was working on, including our expensive machines. Machines remained okay, by the way. No greeting said, just returns. I muster up the tightest smile possible and slowly remove my own work elsewhere and begin opening a computer for the return. I then ask the basics. Do you have a receipt? Nope. What about the form of payment used to purchase these items? Nope. I then tell her that I'll begin a receipt lookup in hopes of finding proof of these purchases so she can receive the full amount back for them. I start asking for her phone number in hopes that it's linked to our reward system, which would make the search easier. This is where she loses her patience. Just as I'm about to ask when these items were purchased, she goes off. Why don't you just scan the items? Scanning them should bring up my receipt. I tell her no, that's not how purchases from our store work. She rolls her eyes at me and laughs. You just don't want to do it. Every other store does it for me. Stop making this difficult. I explain as calmly as possible that it's not possible to pull up a receipt just from scanning a barcode from the items bought. We need a specified date when bought and either a phone number, email, or form of payment used in said purchase tagged along with an item ID. Not just the item ID alone. That's literally useless. She gives me attitude for another few minutes as I go back months and months in an attempt to find her receipt to these items. But alas, she had to make yet another comment about my work. This shouldn't be as difficult as you're making it out to be, she angrily stated as she tried tilting the computer monitor so she could get a look at what I was doing from behind the desk. Not allowed. I quickly stopped her movements, wanting to protect our property, and snapped. It becomes difficult when you come in here empty-handed and impatient. She didn't say much after that. 5 more minutes of desperately searching, she gave up. She grabbed her unreturned items and thanked me for nothing. I smiled and told her to have a great rest of her day, to which she replied, "Forget you," to me and left. A coworker was quick to fill me in on previous encounters she had with that same customer. Apparently, she's known for being the worst of the worst. Thrives off of it even. Today, Sunday, God's Day, this devil of a woman returned with more returns. My coworkers and I were already pretty busy as is, but I made it a priority to take care of this red-horned woman despite it. I make room on our desk for her and beckon her up. She has attitude right off the bat. I'm here to return items, and hopefully this time you'll actually return them instead of BSing me like my last visit. I grinned and told her I remembered her and hoped she was doing well. She ignored it and beckoned to her items. I searched the bag she provided for a receipt, and what do you know? She didn't have one. Nor did she have the form of payment used to purchase them with. Cue déjà vu. Despite the previous interaction, she still couldn't handle the questions I had next. Dates, emails, phone number, anything to help, she still didn't get it. Still didn't appreciate my efforts to find her receipt. I never have issues with this stuff, not from any other stores. This specific store is beyond terrible with its customer service. You should be ashamed with how you've treated me. To her lack of knowledge, a manager had been watching the interaction from the start as she was familiar with the customer herself. My manager swooped in after that statement, sweetened the customer up a bit, and somehow got a brand new phone number out of her, one that this customer never provided me with, in which helped me find the receipt just like that. Her items matched with the receipt found, and she was credited a whopping $195 to her card. You would think she would be happy that the issue was solved, but unfortunately, no. She began asking my manager why our systems were so flawed and why it takes so many steps for a receipt to be found. My manager explained our policies regarding the subject and the devil woman left without another word spoken. I never even get rude with customers like I got with this woman, even ones that talk to me with serious attitude. This one crossed a ridiculous amount of lines, from nearly ruining our printing machines, touching our property without permission, showing impatience, and being overall rude to me despite my long efforts to retrieve her receipt. I felt defeated. Returns without any proof of a purchase are hard, beyond hard sometimes, but we like to go the extra mile in an attempt to find them for customers. Nobody wants to go home without their money back. We know this. We try to help, we really do. I wish more people could sense this. Older lady I always help in the grocery store thought I worked there. I do my shopping the exact same time every week in a large grocery store. There's a little old woman who usually does her shopping at around the same time. She has some mobility issues and doesn't buy much. So after a few times of seeing her having to flag down help every time she wanted something from a shelf above the shoulder level, I approached her and asked if she'd like a shopping companion. It took me under 10 minutes to get everything on her list, and she was very gracious and grateful, even offered me a few dollars, which I didn't accept, of course. I didn't give this a second thought. I wasn't raised to question whether you take 10 minutes to help an old woman in her grocery store or not. It's just what you do. So next week, when I saw her again, I asked if she'd like someone to shop with her, and she was again very grateful for the help. It became our usual routine that whenever I spotted her, usually every other week or two, I'd give her a hand. One week, I didn't do my shopping at the usual time. I worked a little late, and when I came in, there was a big fuss at the customer service desk involving my shopping friend and a young man. I started to go over to be sure everything was all right and hear the young man say, "What do you mean no one with that name works here?" She had a name tag on. My mom saw the name, right, Ma? And she said she did. And the customer service kid is saying he really doesn't have anyone by that name who works there. The young man is going, "What do you mean? Did you fire her? She was here last week, right, Ma?" And I realize it's my name and the potential source of confusion. I go in for shopping immediately after work, and my work uniform is a maroon shirt and the khaki pants with a name tag. The grocery store I shop at has white shirts, any kind of pants you want, and a maroon apron with the store's logo, so a little similar. I go over and she gleefully cries, "There you are! I want you to meet my son!" And he started telling me how grateful he is I was taking time out of my work to personally help his mom shop, and now that he's in town, he wanted to say thanks in person and give me some money, or at least put in a good word with my manager at the store. So could I point them out so he could speak with them? I explained the confusion, and they were both so touched. It was one of the most poignant moments of my life, and definitely the most meaningful I've ever had in a supermarket. If you saw a little old lady trying to reach something in a supermarket, but you could reach it, would you help her? Please let me know. Entitled Mom yells at me for bad service and then asks me for a job. So I'm the manager of a popular fast food chain, and our store is crazy when it comes to service because of the demands of the owner. You get better service in our dingy little burger joint than any 5-star restaurant. We rush to open the door for our customers as they enter and leave. We serve them at their table, clear away their dishes, and we bring mints at the end of their meal. I'd also like to point out that we are not allowed to take tips, and if customers do leave tips, it goes to the owners. Also, we always go to the table after the customer has had a few bites to make sure everything is to their satisfaction. Anyways, this entitled mom was dining in, and apparently she is a regular, though I've never seen her before. She comes up to me in the middle of a huge rush. Entitled Mom, "Excuse me?" Me, "Hello, how can I help you?" Entitled Mom, "Your employee was really rude. I want her fired." May I ask what she did to upset you? "I told her my son's order tasted disgusting, and she refuses to eat it. Your employee refused to get me a new one." She hands me the receipt, which had about $50 worth of food on it, and that is a lot of food for a fast food place. Me, "I'm sorry about that. I'll send someone over to pick up whatever your son didn't eat, and we'll get your order made." "What do you mean?" "We can dispose of the food that he didn't like, so you don't have to clean it yourself." "We already ate the food." "You ate the food?" "Yes." "You said it was disgusting." "It was the worst food I've ever had in my life." "Ma'am, I can't remake your entire order again. You've eaten everything. If your son didn't like it, I can definitely remake his order." But it was gross.
At this point, her server overhears and joins in the conversation. Server: Ma'am, I asked you if everything was to your satisfaction a couple of minutes after we gave you the order, and you responded, everything is fine.
Well, it wasn't. Just give me the whole order.
Me: I'm sorry, ma'am, but I cannot do that. She went nuts.
I can't believe this is happening. I've never been treated with such disrespect. My son deserves to eat with his family. He will feel self-conscious if everyone is watching him.
Me: Ma'am, I'm only able to fix what was wrong with the order, which is your son's food.
The service here used to be amazing. It took us 3 years to beat you guys to the door. I told all of my church friends how good you guys were. Now you want to embarrass me?
Me: I'm sorry you were not satisfied with the service today. She cuts me off.
I'm going to tell all of my church friends about you and your scam. We are going to get you fired.
She proceeds to storm out without her children, who are scurrying around after her once they realized she wasn't coming back. I brushed this off and sent my report into the owners in case they called corporate. 1 week later, I'm working the same shift, and in walks entitled mom with her kids. She comes up to me and smiles.
Hi, I'm wondering if you are hiring here.
Me, obviously stunned. What?
I'm looking for a job, and I absolutely love the service here. I want to apply.
Me: What? You want to work here?
Yes, your service is amazing. It took us 3 years to beat you guys to the door. That's how good you guys are. I always recommend my church friends here. I really want to be part of this team.
At this point, I am at a loss for words. I put on the sweetest smile and said, Lady, I can assure you that I will never hire you, and I will make sure that none of our other locations will hire you. You are the last person I want on my team, so I will not be accepting your application. I don't think anyone has ever spoken to her like that before, because she just stood there with her jaw flapping open and shut, trying to process what happened. To be honest, I wasn't even sure what happened. I had never spoken to a customer like that before, and it was very thrilling. Since she didn't say anything, I continued. You are more than welcome to tell your church friends what I said. And I walked to the door and held it open for her. She was silent as she walked out and didn't even acknowledge me when I wished her a lovely day. Edit: I just want to add that I live in Canada. Edit 2: Since so many of you are asking for clarification, she said beat you to the door because our staff always opens the door for the customers. It took 3 years for her to open the door for herself. Speaking of fast food, what's your favorite fast food place? Please let me know. I prefer McDonald's. Next we've got Encounter with Entitled Parents in the Pediatric Emergency Room. This happened yesterday. My 3-year-old daughter DX'd with pneumonia, and we ended up in the emergency room. Pneumonia is very serious. She was put on a nebulizer and O2 and given an IV for more meds while we waited for a room to open up in the PICU. The emergency room was pretty full. The rooms are small, and you share them. There is a curtain that divides them. There are no doors, just another curtain. Around 4 p.m., a family arrives with mom, dad, and 5-year-old kid. The mom briefly looks in on my side of the room and could see my kid hooked to the machines with an IV. It's obvious that this isn't a stubbed toe. So I can't help but hear the parents explaining why their kid's in the ED. Stomach pain. Meanwhile, the kid is asking for something to eat. She sounds quite perky. Parents insist she has a kidney infection. Whatever, I don't know her history. Not interested. So my daughter was given a shot to help her open her airways. Her O2, which they wanted 90 or above, kept dipping down into the low 80s, making an alarm sound. The nebulizer makes some noise, and the side effect is hyperactivity, so my extremely sick kid was medically wired as heck. Within 30 minutes of arriving, the entitled parents call for a nurse and ask for a private room because their kid needs to rest somewhere quiet. Meanwhile, their kid was blasting YouTube videos from her tablet and loudly demanding chocolate chip cookies and milk. The nurse explains that there are no private rooms in the emergency room. My daughter then starts having a coughing fit, which is scary as her O2 drops off and she chokes. I had 2 nurses in there trying to help by suctioning her and patting her back. I'm trying to help her. My daughter's turning blue. I hear the entitled mother ask the nurse,
How long are we going to be expected to listen to that? Afterwards, my daughter was wiped out and was crying a little, and the entitled mom rang for her nurse again and asked again for someplace quiet so her girl can rest. Her daughter was making a lot of noise playing with something. Then they started playing with the lights. The room has a switch to control the lights on each side, and then a master switch to cut all the lights. My daughter's afraid of the dark. The entitled dad cuts the lights for the room, making it quite dark, with the curtain over the door way drawn. I tell my husband to turn on the lights on our side, which he does. The entitled mom calls her nurse to complain that it's too bright for her girl to sleep. It's 5 p.m. The nurse explained that they are welcome to shut the lights off on their side, but they have to leave our side alone. They complain a bit about how ill their daughter is. Then nurse leaves and they shut the lights off for the entire room again. My husband immediately turns on ours and calls through the curtain that we need our lights on. Silence. Our nurse comes in to attend to my daughter's IV and they attempt to get her to force us to leave the lights off. Our nurse basically tells them to knock it off. Then they start pushing for more space. They attempt to push our chair away from where my husband is sitting. They put their chair way over on our side of the room, pushing the curtain into our faces essentially. My husband pushes it back. They call and complain, rinse and repeat. Finally, a room in the PICU opens up and we are told that we would be admitted in an hour. Entitled parents complain that they asked for a private room first. The nurse explains that we are being admitted, not given a private room in the ED. The entitled parents demand that they be admitted first because their daughter is so much sicker. The nurse says that there is no reason for her to even be admitted and she probably just needs to go to the bathroom. Next we've got, not everyone in a suit wants to sell you a car. I'm a practicing attorney in an area known for many jerks being inherent to the local population. This incident occurred earlier today and I just got the time to type this out. Just to set the stage, I wear a suit until I go to bed, and I'm just over 6 feet and 250 pounds. I own a heavily modified car, so I take it to the performance shop I had do the modifications every 2,000 miles or so for technical inspections and to dial in the tune. With the changing season and a few new components, we moved it to once every 500 miles to make sure everything's all proper, which means I'm having the car for a look over just about each week since I commute around 40 miles. Across the street from the shop is a dealership for very high-end cars. Specifically, one side serves a high-end British automaker known for ultra-luxury work and an Italian brand known for being gaudy. I'm a bit of a gearhead, so I've taken to walking across the street to chat up the employees and to see if there's anything exciting enough for me to want to get a model car of for my desk in their inventory. I'm on good terms with the staff there since a couple of them are former clients for rather exciting speeding tickets and the like, and my girlfriend is a sales representative at an Audi dealership in the same network. I'm examining a gorgeous green coupe and waiting for a coffee an employee had gone to get since these dealerships have expensive coffee machines and darn it, they're gonna use them, especially for a friend. I feel a tap on my shoulder and turn around only to find what could be described as just under 5 feet of dark skin wrapped around silicone and the vague facsimile of a person looking at me with mild impatience and attired in booty shorts and some sort of almost inadequate crop top and colors that can be described as a violent and sticky violation of one's eye sockets and a pair of worryingly high heels. Just to be clear, in most cases, prospective customers make an appointment so that product specialists can devote their full attention to the needs of the client. At this moment, us and a local Instagrammer were the only people on the showroom floor. "Can I help you?" I ask. A mistake, to be sure, but one easy to make when you get through law school on customer service jobs. This entity proceeds to ask questions of me about the SUV offering of this brand, power, engines, what can fit in it, that sort of stuff. Being a gearhead, I actually know many of the things she asks, or can refer to a piece of laminated paper on a nearby example. Then she asks me for a test drive. Firstly, I don't work there. And secondly, I don't believe test drives happen for that level of car without one having already contracted to buy it. I attempt to answer her with an, "I'm sorry ma'am, but I cannot do that as I don't work here." This does not fly. She raises her voice and interrupts me before I can inform her of my lack of employment at the establishment. It's because of how I look, isn't it? Was what passed from the most definitely augmented lips. Firstly, no. And secondly, I don't work here. I try to be concise, already shifting into a mode of how I speak when speaking to the court. Listen here, you deceitful jerk. Her words, not mine. I've seen you up in here talking with the salesmen's. I remember that unneeded plural very clearly. And I know you work with them. So let me test drive this car, and I'll forget about how rude you've been. She starts approaching very close at this point. Ma'am, I don't work here. And if I did, it would be hard to get a test drive anyway. I would be interrupted by one hand adorned with pink claws grabbing me by my necktie and dragging me down to her level. I remind you that I'm 6'1" and 250 pounds, and my head has been jerked down a good foot. My glasses fall to the floor. Shut up and get me those darn keys before I tell your manager. It's at this point that my friend returns to the showroom with the coffee from the attached dealership and witnesses this goblin assailing his friend. He strides over, puts on a wide smile, and asks, "What's wrong?" She turns on her heel, resulting in a rather unpleasant crunch as her heel crushes the lens of my glasses. I didn't quite catch her rant directed at the real employee, but I did finally have enough of this. I pulled my card from my pocket, thrust it in her face, and spoke with the same voice I use in court to make conclusions, and the same little smile. Ma'am, I do not work here. I am an attorney who is friends with several employees here. I just answered your questions because I love the products of this brand and I know some things about it. Now, I am going to ask that either you hand over a check for $600 to cover damages you have inflicted upon my glasses, or I will get the police involved for the battery you performed upon my person. I then crossed my arms, and after a moment of looking between me and the door and the security cameras, she sighs and surprisingly pulls out a checkbook and writes me a check for the damages. I put it in my pocket and observed the general manager of the dealership, who had seen it happen on camera, rush out and ban her on the spot for assaulting somebody in his dealership before security, who had been holding back until a manager gave word, escorted her out. The manager apologized profusely and gave me a fancy paperweight for free for my troubles. I thanked him and left after drinking the coffee. I got my prescription sunglasses from the car so I'd be able to drive safely before calling up my boss, one of the partners at the firm, to tell him my side of events in case she tried something with the card I gave her. I took the check to her bank once the adjustments on my car were done, and surprisingly, it cashed out without incident. I'm going to the optometrist tomorrow to get new glasses, and according to my girlfriend, she actually got the notice at her dealership to deny service to that cretin as well. So, all's well that ends well. She got my name tattooed on her. How the heck do I break up with her? And the thing is, we've only been dating for 2 months. Our relationship has been like nothing I've ever experienced. It's adventurous, fun, and everything like that, but I started seeing red flags very quickly. She's crazy, like she's completely nuts, and I hate to break it off right before Valentine's Day, but we need to part ways. I asked her to meet with me with the intentions of breaking up with her. She said she had something to show me, but we were in public, so she showed me a picture of it instead, which ended up being a tattoo of my name on her with a handprint. I was thinking it was a joke, which actually made her mad. Anyways, it's real. All of my breakups with exclusive relationships have ended amicably. This would be the only one where I anticipate a huge reaction. Given these details, how would you suggest that I break up with her? Now is the time to break up, before Valentine's Day turns into an indictable offense. This is one of the only times I would recommend a breakup by text, then block her and move out of state. OP, I can block her, but I can't move out of state. Have a friend stay with you for a day or two for security reasons, not sad, depressed reasons. Also, install security cameras inside and out of your house. The ones inside need to be hidden. I'm a little scared for you, OP. As others have said, tell her over the phone, then plan to be out of town for 2 weeks. The #1 rule in tattoos is never ever get someone else's name tattooed on you. Just because she was foolish enough to put your name on her doesn't mean you have to stay with her for the rest of your life. That's her problem. Simply tell her you don't see this relationship going the distance and that you think it's best you go your separate ways. Move out of state? Have a friend stay with you for security? Is it just me or are these folks exaggerating? You've never dealt with a psycho ex, have you, Karen?
Am I the jerk for moving out instead of sharing my living space, which is causing a problem for my mom and her boyfriend? My dad passed when I, female 16, was about 3 years old. We lived in a house that my grandparents own, and they agreed to let my mom and I live there rent-free. Over the years, whenever my mom dated, I tried to spend the nights she had guests over at my grandparents' house. When I was 10, my grandfather renovated the basement to make me my own kind of apartment. I have my own bathroom, kitchen, and living room to go with my bedroom. My mom met a guy last year and it got serious. He moved in with his 2 kids, which is fine by me. My mom deserves to be happy and have someone in her life. There are 3 bedrooms upstairs, so it's perfect. One for them and one for each of his kids. Everything was going according to plan until the kids asked where I was staying. I said I lived in the basement. They made a joke about me living in my mom's basement. I invited them down to play Mario Kart to be sociable and to show off, if I'm being completely honest. I have a couch my uncle gave me and my dad's old lazy boy in the living room. The recliner is only for me and all of my friends know that. The kids started complaining that it wasn't fair that I got all of this room to myself. One tried sitting in my chair even after I told her it was only for me. I settled that immediately. It's mine. After a few races where I demolished them, I said it was time for them to go back upstairs. They said no. I called my mom to come get them. Over the course of the next week, my mom started hinting that maybe my living room should be a common area. I said no. She started insisting. I said no. She has a key to my door. I never locked my door unless she had guests. I did start locking it when Dan and his kids moved in. I came home from school and found the kids in my living room. They had also gone into my room and they were eating my snacks that I pay for myself. I yelled and told them to get out. I called for my mom to explain why they were there. She said that she decided it wasn't fair that I got almost 1/3 of the house to myself and that my TV and gaming system should be shared. I said, forget that. She got really upset with me and said it was a done deal, so deal with it. My grandfather heard and he and my uncles came and got me. All of the things that mattered to me, including my recliner. He told my mom that she needed to start paying rent if I wasn't going to be living there. I have a bedroom at my grandparents' house, but I miss my area. My mom is trying to get me to come back so that they can save money to get their own place. Yeah, right, I'm not that dumb. She said that I need to stop being a brat and behave like an adult. I said I was living like an adult until you let those kids into my area without permission. She tried to say she could do whatever she wanted in her house. Sometimes I think she forgets that it wasn't my dad's house and she didn't inherit it. I feel a little guilty about this because my mom is actually pretty cool, and I hate that this is causing a strain in her relationship. Am I the jerk? Edit. After talking to my grandparents, I have something to add. They were not happy about her moving her boyfriend and his kids in. They were going to allow it since I live there still. Them coming into my space and my mom saying I had to share it did not go over well with them. That's why they want to start charging her rent, especially after I moved out. Not the jerk. I'm glad you're standing firm because your mother has absolutely no right to your living area, your things, your snacks, etc. They were provided to you from your grandparents, not from her. Unfortunately, some people just can't be reasoned with, as you found out. You're probably going to find yourself going low contact when you're an adult, and that's okay. You can love her from a distance and not become the person who supplies the deficits in her life. She's an adult. She should pay her own way, not steal from her daughter. Am I the jerk for being suspicious of my girlfriend's friend after she tried to test me? I, 30 male, have been dating my girlfriend, Olivia, 23 female, for the last 1 year. We met at a coffee shop near my office, which I used to frequent to get my morning coffee, and she worked there as a barista. I asked her out and she said yes. Things have gone great so far, and I feel we are compatible in terms of what we like and want from a relationship. She has a group of 3 girlfriends that she's close with. These girls are always very welcoming to me, but they seem very immature compared to my friends. One of the girls is Harper, who's 23. Harper is awesome and we get along well since we like the same video games and music. Recently, Olivia and I were talking about taking our relationship to the next stage, and I asked her to move in with me. She spends 4 to 5 nights a week at my place anyways, so I just asked her to move in. For some reason, her parents are the most excited about this as she's finally moving out of their house. She also told her friends about the same. On Saturday, Olivia decided to stay back at her parents' house to pack some of her things. Harper messaged Olivia and me that she and her friends were downtown and if we wanted to hang out with her. Olivia was gone, but she told me it was okay if I wanted to go out for drinks with the girls. I had nothing to do, and hence I joined them. It was all three of her friends and me, and we went to a few bars. We lost the other two girls midway, and it was just Harper and I. I was constantly messaging Olivia about what was going on as I started to get uncomfortable with the situation. As it was getting late, I told Harper that I would get an Uber for her to drop her off at home. She told me that she wanted to go dancing. At this point, she was visibly drunk. I called an Uber for her anyway. As we were leaving the bar, Harper grabbed my t-shirt and tried to kiss me. I immediately pulled back and told her that this was making me uncomfortable and I would let it pass since she was drunk. She apologized to me. As we were waiting for Uber, she again started to get handsy and told me, "Let's go back to your place, and no one needs to know." I snapped at her at this point and I told her to please shut up until she got in the car. Finally, the Uber came and I got Harper to get in. She kept on apologizing to me and telling me, "Please don't tell Olivia." Finally, her Uber left and I tracked it on my phone to make sure she reached home. I asked Olivia to check with Harper's roommate if she got safely to her apartment. As I was walking home, I called Olivia and told her about what happened. Olivia was crying and I was genuinely upset at Harper's behavior. Olivia tried to call Harper at night, but her phone was going straight to voicemail. In the morning, Olivia came home and told me, "Hey, it's all good. It was just a test." I was angry at this point and asked Olivia to explain what was going on. So Harper messaged Olivia in the morning that Olivia was really lucky and that I passed the test. I asked Olivia if she was involved in this and she did not know that Harper was going to test me. According to Harper, she wanted to make sure that I was not a cheater before Olivia moved in with me. Hence, she wanted to see if I accept her advances. I told Olivia that Harper is full of crap because she was drunk and there's no way she was thinking straight. Moreover, when I snapped at her, she apologized and told me not to tell you anything. Harper's just trying to cover for her mistake and is giving a BS excuse. Olivia thinks I'm overreacting. According to her, Harper is her best friend and would never betray her. Although the test was stupid and Harper should apologize to me, she was just looking out for Olivia's best interests. Also, Olivia feels nothing happened, so I should not make a big deal out of it. I just feel Olivia is dumb and cannot see that her friend tried to get her boyfriend to cheat. I just feel she's too immature to understand Harper's true intentions and it's bothering me. I told her to stay away from Harper if she wanted us to have a happy relationship. Am I the jerk to tell Olivia to not believe Harper's lies, or do you think Harper's story checks out and that I'm just overreacting? I've never heard of anyone hitting on their friend's boyfriend to test the relationship, and it seems like the most BS excuse. Olivia will not drop Harper no matter what. You will not be able to badmouth Harper ever without upsetting Olivia, and Olivia's going to believe Harper over you, which she's pretty much proven already. The number of red flags here is significant. Do not move this girl into your apartment. And Harper will be coming over to your apartment regularly, and she will hit on you again and again and again. Eventually, she'll get mad at her failure to steal you from Olivia, and she will tell Olivia a lie that you did, in fact, fail the test. Now be clear on this. Olivia will believe Harper, not you. You've already lost this battle. It's best to either end this relationship or keep it on the surface level. No moving in or getting married. Not the jerk. But sir, a measly 4 years ago, they were teenagers, albeit freshly minted adults. You can't expect them to have the level of maturity of the people in your age group. They still have plenty of life to experience. Unfortunately for you, you've already been there, done that, so it can make things awkward or difficult to navigate. Don't think that this is the only immature thing you'll have to deal with going forward. The fact that her friend plotted and tried to pull this on you and she doesn't see a problem with it, that's a major red flag. The reason your girlfriend and her friends seem immature is because of the huge age gap. You might not think 7 years is a lot, and it wouldn't be if your girlfriend was 37, but at your stages of life, it's huge. Not the jerk. Date a woman closer to your own age. She's too immature for a serious relationship. I wonder how many of Olivia's other boyfriends failed Harper's test in the past. She's probably hooked up with all of Olivia's past boyfriends except for you. Okay, you win. We will practice and play on the other field. Several years ago, I coached a kids' soccer team. It was a community recreation league with volunteer coaches with a focus on fun and equal playing time. There were 2 fields next to a school. The third field is a 2-minute walk away and hidden behind a thick stand of trees invisible from the two fields. One would never know it was there, but did have a small parking lot next to it accessible only by a rarely used, poorly maintained back lane. Most people would park in the school lot and walk the 2 minutes along the path through the trees. The two fields next to the school were typical school fields, not particularly well maintained, uneven, and definitely not regulation-sized, typical school fields. The third field was regulation-sized, perfectly maintained, had new bleachers, and was maintained like a professional field with regular waterings, cutting, and seeding. It was the groundskeeper's pride and joy. It was the first day of a new season, and my team of 10-year-olds, the Brown Pandas, showed up for our first practice. Except there was another team on our assigned field, a team of talented players with matching socks and shorts. They were all wearing cleats and all in their late teens. I approached the coach and explained that he was on our field and that his field was a 2-minute walk away down the path. He politely told me to take a hike. He was there first, and that was that. So, not looking for a confrontation, I took my team to the really nice field. The parents had bleachers to sit in, and we had a great time on the big boy field. After the practice, the groundskeeper asked me why we were practicing on this field. I told her what happened with the other coach. She told me she asked the other coach to switch the field also. He told her to buzz off, and that was his field. 2 days later, at our second practice, his team was on our field again. The groundskeeper called me over to talk to her and the other coach. She stated, "Just to confirm, for the rest of the season, you're switching fields with the Brown Pandas on the far field and your team on this field here?" "Yeah, this is our field, and the little kids will be on the far field." He looked at us arrogantly. "Fine by me," I stated, grabbed my equipment, and trudged over to the professional field. 2 glorious weeks passed, when during practice, the other coach came over with his team and saw our field. He approached me and told me that we needed to switch fields. I laughed in his face. "Go get the groundskeeper over so we can discuss it." I turned my back on him and probably did something like tie a kid's shoes or dry some tears. Remember, they were 10-year-olds. His team started trying to use our field. One of the Brown Pandas was scared of the bigger kids and started crying. A couple of parents stepped in and started shooing them away before one of the 10-year-olds got hurt. He returned with his entire team and the groundskeeper. She was beaming. She asked him if he remembered our conversation 2 weeks ago. He started to argue. She told him that we were keeping with the terms of that agreement and to go back to his own field. "Go on, scoot," I remember her saying. We had our first game the next week. All the Brown Panda parents were in attendance watching their kids playing soccer on a beautiful field with semi-comfortable seating and a working scoreboard. As we left, we walked by the other team playing on a muddy, undersized field. They eventually changed their game dates and times so they could use the big field, but had to practice on the old field. The Brown Pandas never had to set foot on the older field all season. One of my employees had to take 2 days off of work because his father passed away. A week later, his dad walks right into the store. One of my employees is becoming a bit of a chronic liar. He's a bit of a performer, always doing impressions and generally being a pretty funny guy, but he's a bit of a slacker. I'll call him Scooby. One day, Scooby comes in, uncharacteristically quiet, just looking sad and depressed. He was working slower than usual and not really responding to anybody, in the middle of an otherwise busy kitchen. So he gets pulled aside and tells the owner of the store that his dad just passed away and he was reeling from it. He told him not to tell anybody because he's not the kind of person to spread his emotional baggage around. The owner and I gave him a hug, told him to go home and take as long as he needs. He comes back a few days later and everything seems all right. A few days later, a man walks into the store and asks to see Scooby. "I was wondering if I could see Scooby. That's my son." "You're his dad?" "Yeah, we look alike, don't we?" He did. They looked exactly alike. So now we're faced with the situation of this kid being a little liar. I pulled my boss, the owner, aside and asked him what to do. He told me that we're extremely short-handed right now and letting him go would be counterproductive because we're in the middle of training 3 people and letting him go would force the more capable people to do 50+ hours a week. There's basically 2 to 3 of us plus the owner. He told me not to say anything to Scooby and that he and his wife would take care of it. A few weeks have passed now, and I no longer believe a word out of this kid's mouth. Apparently, the owners talked to him about his lying, but since then it hasn't really stopped. He's taken off of work from throwing up all the time. At one point, he took 3 Fridays and 2 Saturdays off in a row because of his throwing up and various digestion issues. He said he went to the doctor, and his doctor told him he was allergic to eggs, so he stopped eating eggs and that he was okay. Meanwhile, I'll occasionally catch him eating a pre-packaged egg sandwich we bring for the employees for their lunch breaks. One time, he came in all sad and depressed again because his girlfriend broke up with him, and his productivity slowed down to a crawl. We told him to keep his personal drama at the door and sent him home. That night, I see he and his girlfriend publicly snuggling all over my Facebook feed. I don't know what to do. I can't look this kid in the eye anymore, and my boss won't fire him. Do I just deal with it and keep letting this little jerk look at me in my face and lie to me every time he wants to take off of work? Why not discuss this with the owners? OP, that's the thing. They already know about it all. It's impossible to lie to me, especially if I've already caught you in a lie. Then, when you talk to me, my default position is that you're lying, and I'll go back in and logically catch people in lies. The kid's a terrible liar already, and when he talks to me, he's talking to the gatekeeper of truth. Not to toot my own horn or anything, but the only way it's affecting my work is that I would occasionally have to cover for him. But I told them that if this continues, they would have to cover for him, because I'm tired of working 6 days a week and having to come in at 3 a.m. on my day off to open the store because this dude's family are dropping like flies. Can he just be replaced? We're trying our best to train these new kids, but there's so little time. We've resorted to having people come in at 3 a.m. to dress donuts in a closed store for 3 hours until it opens, but it's really hard finding people with an availability of 3 a.m. to whenever the heck. Update. So it's been about 2 months since I last posted about this incident. A lot of really crazy things have happened, so I'll jump right in. After everything happened with the last post, everybody simply put the dead dad incident in the back of their minds. They were upset for a while, but they eventually let it go. I was the last one to let it go, but eventually I did. In retrospect, I shouldn't have, because he never once owned up to his lie. He just acted like none of it ever happened. He tried to come up with lies to get out of working holiday shifts he was scheduled for, Christmas and New Year's, but nobody believed him, and he was told that if he didn't show up to these shifts, that he'd be fired. He showed up to the Christmas shift, but he overslept through the New Year's shift. Nobody cared because we ended up not needing him for the shift anyway, and one of the new guys ended up covering for him on call. Everybody was upset with him again, and he's been on thin ice ever since. Then crap hit the fan in the past 2 days. A couple of days ago, his apparently psycho girlfriend caught him hanging out in a car with one of our mutual coworkers. She had an absolute breakdown and started pounding on her window. Scooby hops out of the car to calm her down, and the coworker, Sky, drives off. The psycho girlfriend gets in the car and keeps trying to cut Sky off in traffic. At least that's the story I heard from my boss. She eventually lets up, Sky manages to get home safe, and texted Scooby, basically going off on him. Later that night, I make a quick stop by the store owner's house to pick something up for the store, and they tell me that Scooby called them and told them that he wouldn't be able to work for the next few days because he got into a big fight with his girlfriend and she slashed his tires. The next morning, I show up for my shift and Scooby calls the store. His speech is all slow, mumbled, and he's slurring his words. I immediately think he's on something. He tells me this story about how the night before, after his girlfriend slashed his tires, she calmed down and they were walking around where they live, in some warehouse district somewhere apparently, looking for a store to grab money so they can call a tow truck to come get his car. While walking, they got mugged. He's fine, but she's not, and they took all of their money. Because of this, he wouldn't be able to work for the next few days, which is Valentine's Day, our busiest day of the year by far. Nobody even wanted to speak to him at that point, so it all came down to this morning. The owner comes in, and I asked her if anyone had spoken to Scooby. Basically, she pulled a string, and his entire wall of lies came crumbling down. I can't make this stuff up. So yesterday afternoon, Scooby calls the store with a disgusted voice and asks for one of our coworkers, Ashley. He asks for her and tells her to meet him out the back of the store with his paycheck that was left for him at the cash register. He did this so that he could avoid having to talk to the owner. Well, she caught wind of it and showed up out back of the store with his paycheck, but he noticed and literally ran away. He shows up about half an hour later and he had marks on his neck, because apparently when you get mugged by a group of guys, they scratch your neck. She confronted him about all of it, told him that she doesn't believe a word he ever says and that she loves him and wishes he had stopped making terrible decisions. By the end of the conversation, he basically admitted to all of the lies and he was finally fired. And thus is the tale of Scooby, the wandering liar. He's the kind of liar where he's so introspective, that he thinks his outlandish lies are going to fool anybody. And it baffles me. I never knew how this dude was ever getting through his life, but I found out a few things over the course of him working there that proved that he was just a pillar of bad decisions. That was his trademark. He got arrested a month ago and was put in jail because he fessed up to some shoplifting that his girlfriend did. He was already on probation from some other crap, but he got off on a legal technicality and got off light. But being in jail for 2 days didn't do anything to help Scooby get his life together. His parents kicked him out of his house, and he'd been floating between his girlfriend's house and his ex-girlfriend's house when he and his current girlfriend are fighting. I know, it sounds like a bad soap opera, and none of us understand why he's letting himself be put into this situation. He needs his butt kicked by someone who cares about him because he's going down a really bad road. And why is our donut shop busy on Valentine's Day? Who knows? It just happened that way for the past 2 years that the shop has been opened. People like to be creative with their Valentine's Day gifts, so they get donuts instead of flowers and chocolates. My mother-in-law tried to stop my wife's life-saving treatments. Allow me to introduce you to my late mother-in-law. I'll call her Carol for the sake of variety. Though I've heard many stories about her, for the most part, I'll stick with things that I witnessed myself. There are enough of them. I don't think Carol ever met a New Age concept that she didn't like. Her expressed goal was to synthesize all religion, science, and mysticism into a unified whole, all of it. To this end, she amassed a large collection of books and stranger objects from her travels, with a special focus on healing. Her library had volumes about vibration manipulation, curative trampolining, homeopathic color therapy, and on and on. I'm not joking or exaggerating here. Her shelves had lots of, admittedly, pretty mineral crystals, along with bottles of magic goddess essence water, evaporated away, and bogus radon protectors, powered by diagrams of geometric figures. Her favorite book, based on the number of annotations and sticky notes, was hundreds of pages of word salad about spiritual beings from the star Arcturus. That's Arcturus spelled with an H because of H-bar, Planck's constant from physics. Her pentagonal home was custom built around an energy vortex that she discovered in the coastal peaks of British Columbia. My wife got the heck out at age 17 and moved across the country to go to university. For most of the time after that, she went relatively low contact. A decade ago, my wife suffered from a surgical error which resulted in abdominal sepsis and asked me to call her mother. That made me understand just how deathly serious the situation was. I was to call in the family for what might be the last time. I hadn't grasped that her life was truly at risk until that point. Nothing less would have induced her to try to get her mother to visit. To her credit, Carol did hurry out for what was supposed to be a couple of weeks. It was expected that in that time, my wife would either pass on or be on the road to recovery. Carol stayed in our home, and at first, things didn't go too badly. For the most part, we just didn't talk about the treatments that my wife was undergoing. Carol did express concern about the antibiotics that were being given, since according to her own views, antibiotics did nothing but harm. But a couple of weeks stretched into a couple of months, and Carol became harder to live with. She was angry when I stroked my wife's hair with my hand because I was blocking the energy from her chakra. She started blaming me for having somehow caused the nausea that the botched surgery was supposed to cure. I drove her out to pick up a magical concoction of essential oils on the condition that she check with one of the doctors before applying them. I pointed out that if the mixture had the power to heal, then it also had the power to cause harm, which Carol denied. When we got back to the hospital, I nabbed one of the residents when we reached my wife's floor to ask about that. Carol became furious about that, and it was clear that she had no intention of talking with the doctors. At home, she got worse with me. She was claiming that I was mistreating my wife by not letting her have her things in the house. At that point, I lost my temper. The first time I'd yelled at a person in literally a couple of decades. I told her that almost everything in sight was actually her daughter's, displacing my stuff. The sofas, the piano, table and chairs, the bookshelves, and the electronics. The shelves for the CDs and DVDs were mine, but half the contents were hers. Carol wanted to know if I'd be continuing the herbal remedies after she left, and I told her that that was up to my wife. I'd continue them if she wanted. I'd stop them if she preferred. Carol screamed that I was mistreating my wife by following her own wishes rather than her mother's. On the night before Carol was finally supposed to be heading out, I was restless. That particular nightmare was about to end,
but my wife was still quite ill. I got to thinking about that essential oil mixture, which included both oil of cloves and oil of cinnamon. Those are both strongly irritating if left on the skin, and Carol had been painting my wife's feet with the stuff. Her feet were, apparently, the correct energy points to draw out the infection. I went online and found the manufacturer's instructions, which specified that the oil needed to be significantly diluted with some neutral oil if it was going to be applied to the skin. Carol hadn't even been using the stuff properly. Well, that explained why the skin on my wife's feet was yellow and starting to peel. But Carol was furious when I calmly pointed out the problems that she was creating out of ignorance. A few days after Carol left, my wife took a turn for the worse and had to go back into the intensive care unit, and I dreaded the phone call that I had to make. Not because of the bad news, but because I anticipated how Carol would react, and she didn't disappoint.
If you really loved her, you'd put her back on the herbal oil and stop the antibiotics. You know perfectly well they won't do anything.
At which point, I hung up. I had other things to worry about. My wife pulled through after months in the hospital and 3 stays in the ICU. She's still in poor health. I told her that I was putting my foot down. Under no circumstances was her mother welcome under my roof again. I didn't care about the family custom that family members were always welcome to stay as guests. I would not stay under the same roof as her mother. Having heard my stories and based on her own experiences, my wife agreed. A few years ago, Carol passed, much as she had lived. She was diagnosed with metastasized lung cancer. Although she did undergo some real medical therapies, she relied mostly on her quack remedies, pawpaw twig powder, whey protein immune boosters, and the like, the usual crap that ethics-free swindlers pawn off on desperate sufferers. She firmly believed that all the little white spots on her lung x-rays were a good sign and that her rapid weight loss indicated that her boosters were draining the cancer away. If there's some existence after death, I hope she came to appreciate all of the harm that she did in life. Except, a couple of nights after she passed, I was driving from the hospital back to the Energy Vortex house. The rental car's navigation device suggested a shorter route that I'd taken to get there. But that route turned into a back road, into a rough road in the hills, into a track through the forest, and, in pitch darkness apart from my headlights, over a rocky bump, and directly into a tree trunk. Luckily, I was traveling slowly and I stopped in time. As I paused, shaken, I got to wondering if there might be something to Carol's worldview after all, and if her vengeful spirit might have possessed the GPS device, making one last try at getting revenge on me.
My stepsister let our house get robbed. My family's lives got thrown into chaos 3 months ago when my mom got arrested for some financial-related crimes. She's probably going to be going away for the next 3 to 8 years. We're losing our home, and her and my stepfather are getting divorced. There's no good timing for any of this, but it's especially bad right now because I'm in college on the other side of the country. My stepfather isn't even in the country right now. He's deployed. And my only sibling, my stepsister, Stacy, just turned 17. By the time my mom realized she couldn't even make bond, I only had 3 weeks until winter break. So we agreed that it would be okay for me to keep my original flight back while things were still being sorted out. We decided that I'm going to take a semester off of school to help out until everything is settled. Obviously, it wasn't ideal to have Stacy hold down the fort for that long, but it's not illegal. The bills were paid and everything, so all she had to do was breathe and not burn the house down. She did not do that. She decided that all of this meant that she could do whatever she wanted, and she moved in with her boyfriend without telling anyone. The house went unattended, and of course, we got robbed. They cleaned the place out. Anything of value that was left after the raid is gone, including basically all of my stuff. That's what I came home to. I immediately called Stacy, but she blocked my number. I only know where she went through social media, and she wouldn't respond to my messages there. So I had to start posting about all of this on Facebook to get her to respond, and now I'm getting crap for blaming her and putting too much on her. I'm expecting too much? On top of having to drop out of school temporarily and everything else I'm responsible for, including probably ending up her guardian, I now have to replace anything I didn't take to college with me and immediately scramble for housing. My only expectation of her was to just not vanish for 3 weeks. That was the only responsibility, and she bailed. Her being a minor makes her actions worse in my opinion, because it's not even legal for her to decide that she just wants to live on her own now. She was legally required to stay there because our parents told her to. I don't think I'm required to pretend she was just an angel to talk about it. Edit. We have footage from a nearby security camera that proves that she wasn't involved in the robbery. Not the jerk whatsoever. Stacy is 17. She's basically an adult. You put your trust in her and she betrayed it. She's the one to blame. It is the highest degree of irresponsibility to be effectively house-sitting for someone and then abandon the house. And then on top of all of that, she just blocked your number because she knows she did the wrong thing. Also, as someone else said, are you sure that she didn't rob your house? That would explain why she blocked you. No jerks here. Neither of you should be having to deal with this, and you aren't responsible for Stacy. Your stepdad may be deployed, but he's the one that needs to step up. Bad idea to defer a semester of college. You should be graduating ASAP and getting into work so you can help yourself and your family more. Stacy is almost an adult. If she wants to live with her boyfriend, maybe come to an agreement about that benefits everyone. Can his mom be a responsible person in her life while you go back to college? Can stepdad be around a bit more? The robbing is not her fault. Crap happens. And no, you shouldn't be putting expectations on Stacy. Let the parents parent. Am I wrong for ending a 20-year marriage because I learned that my wife cheated on me while we were dating? My wife, 44 female, and I, 43 male, have been married for 20 years now. We started dating back in high school when I was a junior and she was a senior. We were long distance for her first 2 years of college while I was in high school and did 1 year at a community college. Then we went to college in the same city for a year and have lived together ever since. We got married the summer after I graduated college. Our marriage has been pretty great so far, but I initiated a divorce after I discovered that she was hooking up with multiple other guys for the 2 years that we were long distance. Just after Christmas, we got together with a few friends of hers from college to catch up, have dinner and hang out. We talked about a lot of stuff, and my wife mentioned that we met in high school. Not that we dated, just that we met. Her old college roommate commented that it was crazy that we met in high school, had a few wild years in college, then ended up together. I played along and commented that I didn't know if my wife was as crazy as I was. The roommate started to tell a story, but my wife cut her off and said she was uncomfortable with it. I sensed something was up, so I said that we actually started dating in high school and we were together for my wife's entire time at college. All of my wife's friends got real quiet and the rest of the dinner was awkward. On the way out, one of her other roommates took me aside and said I should have an honest conversation about what happened in college. I asked my wife on the way home and she kind of blew me off. I told her it was important that she was honest with me, and again, she said it wasn't important. When we got home, I told her I was going to stay at my brother's house until she was ready to talk about what happened in college. The next day she came over and admitted to hooking up with several other guys during her first 2 years at college. She said she didn't consider it a big deal at the time because we were long distance and she didn't think a high school romance would last. I pressed her for more details and she said it was at least 10 different guys, including at least 3 guys she introduced me to as friends when I came to visit on the weekends, and 1 guy she was still in contact with. I told her that I wanted a divorce and I would be starting the paperwork as soon as I could, which I did recently. Her family and most of my family are telling me I shouldn't throw away my marriage over a few mistakes. I've stood by my belief that cheating on me with multiple guys for years is unacceptable, no matter when it happened, and the fact that she continued to maintain relationships with these guys right in front of me was an unacceptable amount of disrespect. We have 2 kids, but they're 17 and 19, and I believe they will understand why I need to end the marriage. Am I wrong for leaving? I feel like I'm going crazy with the amount of people telling me to look over years of infidelity and decades of lies. I obviously can't answer every question, but I wanted to provide some detail for common questions. The reason I posted this is that my wife and a few friends have been saying it's common to hook up with other people when you're in a long-distance relationship, and that I'm kind of the odd one out for not doing it. I felt like I was being gaslit, but I wanted an outside perspective. We live in a state with a waiting period to finalize a divorce, so I felt like it was a reasonable idea to get some insight before things are finalized. After these comments, I see a handful of folks saying it's normal to hook up with other people during a long-distance relationship, but it seems to be a significant minority. We saw each other a couple of weekends a month during the 2-year college period. I lived about 3 hours away from her college, so it was long distance, but not like cross-country. This was not a situation where we went months without seeing each other. The 3 guys I met while she was in college were meetings that happened during parties. The subject of me being a boyfriend didn't really come up, so I honestly don't know if these guys knew anything. The one guy we're still in contact with married a mutual friend from college. This is not some guy she secretly messages on the side. It's somebody we've talked to regularly for years. I've talked to him a few times since I've learned about my wife. He said he didn't know we were dating at the time and has since blocked my wife on social media. Some folks have asked how the roommates didn't realize at our wedding that the timelines just didn't work out. The main reason is that my wife and I had a very small ceremony with just close family in Texas, then went back to the East Coast to have a big party with friends. The typical reception and sharing details about how we met stuff didn't really happen, so her roommates didn't realize we started dating before college. It sounds like they thought we only dated for the year we were both in the same city, then moved in together. I was open to therapy or some kind of attempt to save the marriage, but her insistence that this whole thing is common and I'm the one who's out of line is just too much for me. The only time she showed any remorse or even offered to reconcile is when I started filling out the paperwork. In the last week, she's gone back to saying she's right and I'm overreacting. This is also why I'm feeling like I'm being gaslit. It seems obvious that this is a major issue, but I've got my wife and others telling me it's normal and I'm overreacting. I'm not getting a paternity test unless my kids want to get one. I don't have any doubts that they're biologically mine and no test will make them not my kids. I love them more than anything in the world, and my wife's infidelity won't change that, even if one or both of them were not biologically mine. They've been my kids for 19 years, and they will be my kids for the rest of my life. We were definitely exclusively dating at the time. First, dating culture was a lot different 20 years ago, and exclusive was kind of the default for most people. Second, we had a long and difficult discussion before she left for college about continuing the relationship long distance. She specifically wanted to stay together and even joked about her dad coming after me if I started hooking up with other girls at my school. Finally, at my senior prom, she was not able to attend and was very upset when I proposed going with a platonic female friend of mine. As a result, I ended up skipping my prom and hanging out with her instead. While we never said the word exclusive, I think the above reasons, combined with the general relationship before she left, are enough to assume exclusivity. Based on some comments here, I followed up with the friend that said I should have an honest conversation. She told me that 10 guys would be on the low end and that her biggest concern was that there was apparently at least one pregnancy scare that I didn't know about. I honestly don't think that really changes much. It's less about the number for me and more about the fact that she seems incapable of recognizing why this was wrong or why I feel betrayed. Thank you for all your helpful responses, even those that disagree with me. I will still be open to therapy if she's willing, but I honestly feel like it would be more about us being successful co-parents and finding closure than saving our marriage. It would change a lot if I felt that she actually wanted to fix things. Throughout our conversation about it, she repeatedly dismissed my feelings and told me I was overreacting to totally normal behavior. She didn't show any regret or consideration for how it hurt me until she realized I was serious about divorce. Then she got defensive and angry. She didn't offer to fix things in any way until I started the paperwork and notified her that I had a lawyer. I think we can navigate being parents. Our kids are older, and I've been putting away money for college and post-high school for a long time, so a lot of the custody and monetary issues that come up shouldn't be a big problem. We're also both financially stable, and we make good money. Update. First, let's talk about the things I learned about the situation in college. After talking to my wife in sessions and texting with 2 of her roommates, it's clear that her roommates knew something was up in college. They said they thought the situation was weird and likely involved cheating. My wife had told them that we both had some wild times in college and worked it out before we got married, so they never really brought it up. The roommate who pulled me aside recently was uncomfortable with the fact that my wife clearly didn't talk it through with me and wanted me to know. As far as being introduced to guys that she hooked up with, apparently that was not intended. For one of the guys, he ended up dating and then marrying one of our mutual friends from college. This is the guy she was in contact with. In the other situations, she initially blamed me in the counseling session, but now has agreed that it was bad. When I went to visit her, she planned to hang out in the room or just hang out together alone. But I wanted to go to a few parties because in high school and community college, I didn't really have parties to go to. She didn't expect me to meet the guys, but they were at the parties and she felt she didn't have a choice. I still think this is kind of crappy, but it's not as bad as her intentionally parading me in front of guys. Most of our discussion in therapy has been talking about why I think it's a big deal and she doesn't. She initially said that none of these guys were in relationships with her, and it was mostly just a one-time thing or a friend with benefits. Since she didn't view them as romantic relationships, she didn't see the big deal. Her words, not mine. My opinion is that we never said that was okay, and she actively prevented me from doing the same. After digging into this across 2 sessions, my wife talking to some friends, she now agrees that it was a breach of our trust and relationship. This is the shared understanding that has helped us talk about this situation more honestly and helped us get from arguing to talking. This is why I'm optimistic about co-parenting. Now, here's why I'm 100% set on divorce. 2 things came up that make me want to leave the marriage. First, about 10 years ago, she went through a really rough patch and we didn't hook up for about 2 years. She had expressed that our love life was becoming boring, so I tried to spice things up. Apparently, she had been hung up on some experiences that had happened when she was in college that she is not comfortable talking about and wanted me to try them. But when I did, it made her feel awkward and guilty that it made her think of the other guys that she had been with. The fact that she's saying these experiences were meaningless, but they're still impacting our marriage, tells me they meant more than she wants to say. Second, she admitted that she has been flirting with coworkers on business trips since lockdown ended. She says that she never hooked up with anybody, but it got as far as going out on a date with one of her male coworkers. That was the absolute deal breaker for me. We've told our kids that we're getting a divorce. We told them it was due to some bad decisions that we made in college that we're having trouble moving past now. My 19-year-old, who's in college, asked me if I cheated on my wife while she was away at college. My wife got a little shaken up, but admitted to the kids that she's the one who cheated. We have agreed to not share any details with the kids. I reinforced that both of us will be there for the kids and that we are in therapy to make sure we handle this in the best way for the family. I also told the kids that if they wanted to talk to either of us or a therapist about it, that I would fully support it. We've started talking to a mediator about how to proceed with a divorce, and unless things change, we should be able to have an amicable divorce. We're both financially stable on our own, we have no major debts, and our kids are older, so custody is not an issue. This has been a crappy couple of months for me, but I'm doing okay now, and I honestly am grateful that my last post blew up because it both validated some of my feelings, but also motivated me to go to counseling with my wife. The fact that she never mentioned it and repeatedly shut down OP explicitly probing for info after the dinner as not important shows that she's lying through her teeth and does in fact know that what she did was wrong and it is a big deal. She's just lying to herself at this point. No one else is buying her crap. This guy is smart. He knows that he knows enough to pull the ripcord and that any additional knowledge will be something he can't move past. So he's moving on. I know I'm probably in the minority here, but to me, it's crazy to throw away a 20-year marriage over a youthful college infidelity. You have kids together. You've built a life together. You find out this information and she's suddenly not the same woman she was yesterday? I mean, I hate to break it to you, but she's not the woman she was in college either. That person has been gone for a long time. The confessions of flirting with other men on business trips, that's pretty bad, I admit, but she confessed it, which means she at least acknowledges it's a problem. Otherwise, she wouldn't have said anything. I mean, I don't know. It's his life and his marriage. He knows what's best. Just seems like a waste is all. Throwing out the baby with the bathwater over an ego wound. This might be the most brain-dead doormat take I've ever seen on a sub like this. I won a free car, and my boyfriend and his family seem to think that I'll give it to him for free. I, 23 female, won a brand new compact car in a raffle I entered a few weeks ago at a trade show that I was at for work, which is awesome, but I already have an older car that I really like, and I just finished paying it off, so I can finally pay the cheaper liability-only insurance. My car still has a lot of life in it. It only has about 100,000 miles, and if I were to choose a brand new car, it would not be the one that I won. I did some research, and after taxes and shipping, I can make around 14 to 15K from selling the car. That money would be an incredible just start after graduating college. It would more than triple my savings. My boyfriend, 25 male, of a little over a year, has been without a car for a few months. He's been struggling a bit financially, so he hasn't gotten a new one yet. But he can walk to the grocery store, he gets a ride to work, and I drive anywhere else. It's worked out fine, and I really don't mind. He helps out with gas and driving. For background, he lives with friends. I live with my dad for free, so I'm able to save up money. I definitely see a future with him, but we aren't at the point where we've talked about moving in together yet. But we are very serious. I went to a gathering at his parents' house last night. His whole family has been wonderful and welcoming to me, and everyone congratulated me on winning the car. But everyone, including my boyfriend, seemed to think the logical and obvious step was to either give it to my boyfriend or give him my car and keep the new one. I don't plan to do either of these things. It would be different if we were married or living together and our money was mixed together, but it's not. We aren't at that point in the relationship yet. I don't want to give him what would essentially be $15,000 in cash. It doesn't make any sense. If I had won the money instead, there wouldn't be any talk of just giving it all to him. That car and the resulting money should be mine. It's not my responsibility to provide him with a free car, whether it be my $5,000 car that I really like or this brand new one. For the dinner at his family's house, I just stayed quiet because I was so shocked at their assumption and I didn't want to rip it away from him in front of his entire extended family. How do I break this to him and his family that this car and the money from it is not in any way his? Update. So the day after the family gathering, where everyone assumed I'd just let my boyfriend use the car for free, I had to drive into the city where I won the car to sign a bunch of paperwork and pay some fees. We both had the day off, so I texted my boyfriend and asked if he'd like to come along so we could walk around the city and go out to eat afterwards. He agreed and I picked him up. We hadn't talked about the night before at all. He asked general questions about what it was that I had to do today, and I explained that, and then I explained how the taxes on the car were still going to be several $1,000s, but luckily I could cover them with my savings until I got the money for selling the car, and hopefully it would come out to around 14 to 15K based on my brother's calculations. He was quiet for a minute and asked, "You don't want to keep it?" And I said no, that I was happy with the older, bigger car I currently have. It better suits our needs, and I can pay cheaper insurance on it because it's paid off. He said that he didn't realize the taxes would be so much. It was awkward in the car for a moment, and I finally just asked, "Did your family think I'd give you the car to use?" He said his mom told everyone right before I got there that we, meaning boyfriend and I, won the car, and that he'd finally have something to drive. He said that he didn't think I'd do that, but he assumed I'd want to keep the new car simply because it was new, and that maybe I'd let him use my old car if he took over the insurance payments. But then he very quickly said that he did not realize the taxes would be more than a few $100s. I guess his train of thought makes sense given what he assumed about the cost. He agreed that it made the most sense to sell the new car. I asked if he was going to explain that to his mother, and he said that he would, and that she views the two of us like a married couple already, because she wants that so badly for him and has been heavily pressuring him to propose to me. That I did not know. Neither of us are at a point where we're even remotely ready for that. We're happy with where we are right now. He promised he'd talk to his mom and explain to his family, and that he wouldn't let any of them think less of me. I was worried about that. So he waited patiently while I dealt with the company running the raffle. It ended up taking over 3 hours, and then we had a nice time strolling around the city, and I treated us to a very nice dinner. Yet again, the mother is writing checks that the relationship can't pay. What's with these parents who design an entire life for their kids from wish fulfillment? The previous generation has wildly different expectations from what relationships are like because the world right now is fundamentally alien to them. A lot of that goes to the economy. It just costs more to reach the milestones that seem normal to them, like moving out, dating, marriage, having kids, etc. Not just that, but dating has fundamentally changed in a way our parents' generation will never understand. The internet, dating apps, and social media have all massively changed not only our expectations in a partner, but the way we approach finding them in the first place. We've now got so many options, we're a lot less likely to settle for someone who isn't right for us, which means we're going to take longer before settling down. And then she treated him to a nice dinner? It's no wonder the guy's mom already considers them married. It's because she already considers OP's bank account her baby's money. This guy lives with his friends. Does he pay his bills? Does he do his own laundry? I'm sensing hidden red flags. The boyfriend is a deadbeat who lives with friends, has no vehicle, and he and his family are just aching for someone to step in and take care of him. OP needs to ditch this deadbeat and move on. $800 car turns into $3,000 in tickets. From 2018 to 2022, I, 25 male, was a consistently broke pizza delivery guy. My common method for vehicles was to buy cars for around $1,000, do minor repairs, and then drive them for 3 to 6 months until they exploded. I'd make 10x on the car and would wash, repeat. Did this probably 7 or 8 times over the years. The only time I ever got burned was buying a '98 Civic Coupe. I remember I was a little extra broke, but needed a car for work that week, and Civics and Corollas were/are the easiest and cheapest for me to work on. I texted him and drove to Felony Flats in Portland, red flag 1, and was greeted by a man with a gold grill, red flag 2, who didn't speak much English, which wasn't helped by my poor Spanish. The car itself was pretty beat up cosmetically, but ran perfectly, so I gave him the $800 and headed to work. This is where the problems begin. The next day I head to the DOL to register the car, only to realize that the title was voided due to the car being in a wreck, so I wouldn't be able to register till I got the proper title. Annoying, but I figured he made an innocent mistake. I call him and leave a message saying there's issues with the title, and he doesn't respond. I call over 100 times over the next 2 weeks to get it figured out, but he keeps ignoring me, and at this point, I figure I've been had. I move the car to the public street to deal with another day. One morning, I come out to find tickets for no registration and no insurance left on the car, $150 to $200 between the two, and a tow warning. At first, I was enraged until it dawned on me that the car wasn't in my name and those tickets weren't mine to deal with, so I made a plan. Every few days, the car would get reticketed and tagged for towing. I would come out, place the tickets on the driver's seat, move the car by a few feet, and erase the tow warnings. After 2-ish months, I had racked up about $2,000 in tickets on this car, not in my name. One day, I get a frantic call from, guess who? The man who sold me the car, who also miraculously learned perfect English, telling me he was getting calls from the city and begging me to not let them tow it. I think at this point he realized what I was doing, and that he would get me the title that week, and that the delay was because he and his wife were in a nasty divorce and she had the current title. I simply responded, "What car?" and hung up on him. As I was leaving my apartment, I saw the cops there getting ready to load it on the tow truck and decided to let it go in case the former owner came looking for it. Ultimately, I never got my $800 back, but he got $2,000 in tickets, $4,000 if they went 30 days unpaid, and a $1,000 tow bill. But if the story about his divorce was true, a super angry ex-wife, because the car was still in her name too. Can't put a price on that. I never heard from him or the city about the car. My only regret was not driving it to an empty parking lot and leaving it in a handicap spot, but didn't want to risk being seen on cameras. Hope you enjoyed. I, 40 male, accidentally read a text from my partner, 39 female, and it is not great. I went to use my wife's phone to look up a recipe, and after unlocking it, the Messenger app was open and was about divorce. I shouldn't have violated her space. I wasn't trying to. My phone was dead and I was trying to make dinner. But still, I violated her space, especially as I scrolled. I get that. Please be gentle as I'm in a dark place right now. My relationship has been very strained lately, and we had a big fight 2 nights ago where I needed some short-term reassurance in our marriage before making a huge career decision, but ended up going through an internal checklist of every insecurity I had in our relationship. It was awful of me to do that. Today, I grabbed her phone while making dinner and saw she had texted a recently divorced coworker about a job offer that I received. The text I saw was, "Wife's friend. You definitely don't want to move right now for custody reasons, but let's chat tomorrow at lunch. My wife. Sounds good." I panicked when I saw custody, so I scrolled up and saw, my wife. OP got offered a job 3 states away, but we might be heading towards divorce. Not sure what to do career-wise. Her friend. Yeah, I understand that, sadly. My wife. I hate that I'm in this situation. I've tried to avoid it for the past 2 years, but I think it's inevitable at this point. This friend came up in conversation an hour later as my wife was exploring career moves to mesh with mine, and my wife denied wanting to talk to her about divorce at all. I don't know what to do now. Our relationship is coming out of a bad place, but we've made amazing progress and we're doing pretty good. A long way to go. I've never had my wife lie to me before, so this is earth-shattering to me, as much about the notion that she feels divorce might be inevitable. Does this mean we're headed for divorce, or does that just mean that she feels helpless in the moment? We had just had a big fight for us, and I'm working through mental health issues. Please help. Are you sure you've made progress, or did she just stop fighting for it to be better? It's very common that when one partner gives up and is ready to end the relationship, the other partner thinks things are getting better because they're fighting less. Did you accept the job offer? Was that what the big fight was about? Expecting your wife to move 3 states over when your relationship is in a bad place is not helping. I'm not saying that this is your fault or you're to blame. I just wouldn't want to move 3 states away, have distance from my support system, and give up my own job, all for a relationship that's not in a good place. That's a scary place to be, and if things were already rocky, I can see that being the final nail in the coffin. Did you acknowledge that when you brought up potentially moving? Exactly. My ex-husband was telling people we had worked things out when we most definitely hadn't. However, I had checked out of the relationship and wasn't bringing the issues up. That's not the same as resolved, which he knew because I said, name one thing that has changed. Nothing. So, Why would you think our relationship was okay? Am I the jerk for not telling my family I could cook and letting them embarrass themselves in front of my in-laws? Growing up as the youngest in the family, I, 27 female, was often treated like I was a little princess who couldn't do anything for myself, which was aided by the fact I was a very clumsy kid and some things took me a lot of practice and patience to get right. I was the butt of the joke, and my family loved to tease me and crack jokes about the fact I couldn't boil water or that I was a disaster everywhere I went. They would always say I could never be trusted in a kitchen and would need to find a man who could cook and clean for me in the future. It was something I resented, and it did make me feel self-conscious. I would try really hard to not mess up, but somehow I always seemed to. Moving out to attend college was the best thing I ever did. I met so many great people, including my husband, and I thrived in an environment where nobody was making fun of me. One of my friends was in culinary school, and she taught me a lot of cooking skills that I could use in my day-to-day life. She was really patient and suggested that I might have something like dyspraxia. She recognized some of my difficulties as being similar to her brother's. Sure enough, I went to my doctor, and she referred me to a specialist to help diagnose me. I have a milder form, which is why it was never brought to attention enough. I just looked like I was careless or clumsy as a kid. I didn't see or speak to my family a lot during this time. When I did, it was awkward. My husband, then boyfriend, would come with me sometimes, and he was always so annoyed by the jokes they'd make about me. When we got married, we actually eloped while on vacation overseas with his family. It was amazing and made a much less stressful wedding. My family and my in-laws had seen each other once or twice before, but briefly. So when my family decided they wanted to come and see me and stay for a weekend in a hotel, we decided to host both families, and I cooked. But we didn't announce that until my parents had started making their little jokes and crediting only my husband for the food and the cleanliness of our home. My in-laws were aware of how my family acted, but they didn't realize how little they believed in me. My husband giddily informed my family, after they had really made jerks of themselves, that I had cooked the whole meal and that we shared those responsibilities. He said the same thing goes for the cleaning. My family were like, "No, she can't," but my in-laws said I was cooking almost as long as they knew me, and I did a good job every time. My mother-in-law mentioned my diagnosis, and my dad told her that they thought I was just trying to make excuses. My family was awkward, and my in-laws left with a better understanding of my family and a nice dose of anger at them for how far they were going to humiliate me in front of them. My family was also upset with me for not explaining things better beforehand. Not the condition, but the fact that I do cook now and I could do it. They said I tried to humiliate them out of pettiness. Am I the jerk? Good for you. And goodness gracious, is this the first Reddit post I've seen where the in-laws are the good guys? Seriously, well done. And I know how much of a relief it can be to get that diagnosis and finally get the, "Oh wow, that explains so much" moment. Not the jerk, and your in-laws and husband sound amazing. Your own family, not so much. I would hope they learned a lesson here, but I would suspect probably not. Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of Reddit Podcast Stories, where today, my neighbor expects me to delay my construction project because she's pregnant. We're planning on doing a major rebuild on our old row house and finalized everything around 2 weeks ago. We're excited as it's taken us nearly a year and a half to get here. We texted our neighbors this weekend to let them know construction would start at the end of the month for approximately 3 to 4 months. We're not extremely close with the neighbors, but we're always pleasant. One neighbor came by to talk to us after we sent the text and expressed disappointment in the timing because his girlfriend is pregnant and due next week. We ourselves were never told of her pregnancy until December and that she was due sometime in February. He also asked about our rebuild on his own, and my partner mentioned it might happen sometime in April, which was our original start date. We told him how sorry we were for the timing, but obviously it wasn't intentional. 10 minutes after he left, we received a text asking if we were available to talk the next day about possible solutions and if we could delay the rebuild by 3 to 4 months. We agreed to meet, but told him delaying was not possible because we already had another place lined up for us to live, contractor agreements, etc. Needless to say, the meeting was not ideal. The girlfriend cried the entire time while apologizing for crying and hormones. She said she has not cried as much as she has in the past 24 hours as she has in the past 2 years. She's worried how this will affect the baby because now she's stressed. She couldn't believe that we just sent them a text message with only a month in advance and that we should have come talk to them in person, as this was the first time she was hearing about this. Did we even put ourselves in their shoes? They have nowhere else to go. They're concerned with how this affects their own sleep because the baby will be up at night and they need to sleep during the day, and they won't be able to with construction. If we did the rebuild 3 months later, then it would at least be summer and they could go outside to escape the noise. They also kept repeating, what if they just say, no, this can't happen? We obviously feel bad for them as new parents expecting a baby, and we all live in old row houses, so I get how noisy and distributive it will be. We told them we would get them a build schedule so they could see what days would be the noisiest, and they want us to ask the contractor if they can be quiet hours from 12 to 3. I don't think that's realistic, and I don't know what else we can do to amend the situation. We do share a wall with them, and part of the rebuild includes insulating the entire house. We found out work will go on from 8 to 4 p.m. each day, with a 30-minute break for lunch at 12. The builder is fine to give an overview of what will be done and when. After that, I think we've done our best to assist them during this time. It's a baby. It's going to make noise all on its own. It can now make as much noise as it likes without disturbing you next door, and without its parents being worried about it doing so. This is a massive overreaction from your neighbors. I would suggest you stop being quite so accommodating and concentrate instead on your own plans and carrying them forward. Not the jerk. 100% agree. Tell them to buy a great white noise machine and don't think anything further of it. I have a 1-year-old. If they want to sleep, they will sleep through anything. If they don't want to, a tissue dropping will wake them up. Not the jerk. I've had 2 kids, and their entitlement is crazy. And pregnancy hormones are real, but this sounds ridiculous. Plus, a baby newborn actually sleeps through all kinds of noise. It would disturb them more a few months down the line. I could vacuum and play loud music while my newborn napped. Now that he's 5 months old, loud noises start to wake him up. They'll get used to the noise quick too, and unless they're offering to pay for the pushing back of schedules, contractors, your accommodations, and some extra for the inconvenience, they have a rude awakening happening that the world does not revolve around them. Good that they learn early that also outside, no one gives a hoot if you have a baby. People yell in the streets, construction is happening everywhere, and cars are loud. Absolutely sucks for them, but they'll deal. Should I remove my wig to accommodate a coworker? I'm a middle-aged woman with hair loss. It's not alopecia. It's caused by my hypothyroidism, but I've been told it's technically not considered medical hair loss. This is important. I wear wigs like all of the time. I rarely leave the house without one on, and I frequently wear them in my home too. Jay is a coworker who has multiple sensory perception issues. The company is committed to accommodating these, and I completely agree with that. For a little context, my son and daughter are both neurodivergent and have their own differences, which I hope their workplaces will always accommodate. Jay recently learned that I wear wigs. This bothers him to the point of distraction and anxiety where he can't focus on anything when I'm present. He stares at my head and seems unable to stop. He asked me if I could stop wearing them, just so that he could see my head, and that maybe after that he'd be able to get back to normal. But he admitted he doesn't know if that would work, and that he might still be unable to function normally with me around wearing my wig. I told him I'd think about it, but everything inside me says no. This was last week, and I haven't seen him since then. But he escalated the matter. I'd been told that since I'm essentially wearing my wig for cosmetic reasons, rather than a medical reason, I have to remove it to be in compliance with Jay's accommodations. I then said I would agree to do this once, but I do not want to agree to never wear a wig around him again. That would be distressing for me. This matter was reviewed for a day before I received a response this morning. Essentially, I've been told that this is only my vanity, and now I need to get on board with accommodating Jay's very real issues, even if that means going wigless at work. I don't know what to do. Should I contact Jay about it personally, or continue to only communicate through my supervisor and HR? What are my options? I've been asked how Jay learned that I wear wigs. I'm actually very open about it. Jay was present and within clear hearing distance when a colleague and I had a conversation about it. I'm going to share a couple of things about me, so this might make more sense. First, I'm known for being very strong and tough. I'm the only woman in my department and in our immediate adjacent departments. My coworkers would likely never think that my hair loss is truly upsetting for me. I'm sure they think that I've taken it in stride and wear wigs for the fun of it. Update. Basically, after this issue was brought to the attention of someone else from HR, Alicia, who also wears wigs but is on maternity leave right now, a lot happened very quickly. I had a video chat with Alicia, Tim, the HR person who initially told me I would have to remove my wig, one of their higher-ups in HR, as well as someone from legal. So once the right people were alerted to what was happening, it was taken very seriously. I was assured in the video chat, as well as via text and phone call with Alicia, in addition to multiple emails and documents, that I will not be asked or required to remove my wig. Jay and I are not to have any further communication regarding this. We've both been instructed that if either of us attempts to discuss it with the other one, we are to report it. So, it's over. Am I wrong for breaking up with my girlfriend even though she didn't cheat? I'm 56, male. I was married for nearly 35 years. I married when I was young. My wife was my best friend, and she passed 18 months ago. I reconnected with a female friend I used to work with, 49 female. She told me that her husband of 30 years constantly cheated on her and even had a kid with his affair partner. She felt that she was trapped. I told her if she ever left him, I would take her in. She's beautiful, and her kids are grown. A few months go by and she leaves him. She wants to be with me. Great. A day before she is to move in, she, for some reason, tells me about a younger guy that's been pursuing her. Tells me if she didn't get with me, she would have went out with him at least once just to hook up. I was confused as to why she would even tell me that. She mentioned hooking up with him again a couple of hours later. I told her if she really wanted to do that, she was a grown woman and can make up her own mind. And if she was going to do it before she moved in. She asked me if I was okay with it. I told her that we are adults and she can make up her own mind. I never told her I was okay with it. Well, she decided to spend the night with him the day before moving in with me. She will see me in the morning. She left and I got started packing her stuff up. She came back an hour and a half later saying that he had a family situation and couldn't be with her that night. Sucks for her. She asked me what I was doing. I told her I was packing up a cheating jerk's things. She started crying and said that nothing happened yet and that I said it was okay. I told her I never said it was okay, and all I said was she was an adult and can do what she likes. She has nowhere to go. I told her to call him to come pick her up, but she can't stay here. I went into my house and locked the door. She tried telling me that if she would have known I felt this way, she never would have done anything. I feel I shouldn't have to tell her to be faithful, and instead of doing it behind my back, wasn't as bad as doing it in my face. I told her from the beginning what I thought of cheaters. She kept saying she never cheated, but I think trying and doing is one and the same. This happened several days ago, and she keeps blowing up my phone. I don't answer. I thought I had a good, loyal girlfriend. The joke's on me. So, am I the jerk? I never pushed her to leave her husband. I will always wonder if I did the right thing. Edit. We talked about it before. She asked me if I was okay with it. I told her no, I didn't like it. I never specifically said I would throw her out. Didn't think I had to. Then when she told me he was married and he had kids, that was when I just couldn't do it. She became everything she supposedly hates in a person. I loved her enough to probably get over a one-time thing because she was honest. As she was walking out the door is when I found out that he was married and they had kids. I asked her on our way out if she was going to his house, and she said that his wife and kids wouldn't like it. That sealed the deal. Quit telling me that I basically gave her permission. I didn't. I let her know I didn't like it, but would probably get over it. Until, edit 2. Before this happened, she asked me if I was okay with it, and I told her no, I wasn't okay with it. We were exclusive, or at least that's what she told me. She also told me days before that if I ever cheated on her, she would be gone. So many women on here are acting like I gave her permission. I didn't. I also didn't forbid a grown woman from doing what she wanted. She did what she wanted. I did what I wanted. I guess she thought I loved her too much to dump her. I love no one enough to put up with them hooking up with other people. Just because I didn't specifically say that she would be gone from my life. Hooking up with that guy was worth losing me over. Or at least she thought it was. Life is a series of choices. She made hers and I made mine. We both made what we thought were the best choices for each of us. Her son is on his way to talk to me. He's married and they have 2 kids living in a 2-bedroom apartment. She's staying with him. I told him there's no way I will change my mind. I also told him not to bring her with him. I'll let you know how it goes. I don't know what he thinks will happen, but he's a good dude. Welcome here anytime. I don't care if all she does is cry. I did my fair share too. How long was she your girlfriend before you invited her to move in with you? He invited her to move in with him before she was even divorced. They weren't even dating yet, just emotional affair partners. Both of these people are nuts. Maybe instead of saying, do it before you move in, you should have said, if you do it, don't move in. but you're not wrong for skeeving bad behavior. How about not having someone who just broke up with her husband move into your home as the starting point of your new relationship in the first place? All kinds of poor judgment coming from all corners with these two. You're 56 and can't tell a woman directly that if she hooks up with someone else, you don't want to live with her? I'm not condoning cheating at all, but it sounds to me like you implied that if she wanted to hook up with this guy, to do it before she moved in, which sounds like a green light to me, but to each their own. Am I the jerk for telling my dad's wife she will never be as good as my mom and taunting her that I don't call her mom? My parents divorced when I, 17 male, was a baby. My dad had met his wife and decided he wanted to be with her and not my mom. It was messy, I'm sure. From the time I was 11 months old, my parents were sharing custody of me with an even 50-50 split for parenting time. Back when I was a baby/toddler and learning how to speak, my dad's wife thought it would be a good idea to taunt mom with the information that I had said mama for the first time at dad's house and I had said it to her. I've seen the messages because my mom had a folder to prove a hostile co-parenting environment. My dad's wife told her that she was always going to be the first mama and the most important one since she got to hear it for the first time. Things were so tense between my parents and it got bad enough that the court ordered they shouldn't have contact unless both parties agreed. That way I wouldn't be caught in the middle. My mom asked my dad if they could both take me for my first day of school. He said no and said his wife was going to be doing it with him because she was my real mom. Dad's wife sent text to my mom about the day and saying everyone was complimenting her on how great her son is, etc. She admitted they talked over me when I was going to say something about her and how I forgot about her after that. Stuff like that happened a lot, and my mom has this folder which proves it all. I read the folder when I was 12. My mom was upset that I had found it, but also relieved that I knew what she had gone through with them. When I was younger and I felt uncomfortable at my dad's house because I couldn't mention mom at all and they always talked about dad's wife being my mom. I told this to a person who interviewed me when my mom took my dad back to court. My dad ended up losing custody for 2 years because of it, but won it back by taking classes assigned by the court. Then we got a new judge who refused to let me choose where to live at 14 and again at 16. This was even after saying nothing had really changed. Last weekend, I mentioned my mom to someone and my dad's wife jumped in, acting like I was talking about her. When we were alone, I told her she knows I'm not talking about her and to stop it. She was visibly annoyed by that and told me I have 2 moms and I should be proud of that. I told her I don't have 2 moms and would never be proud to call her my mom because she's nowhere near as good as my mom. I told her I know it bothers her that I don't call her mom. I said it was what she deserved for the whole mama thing when I was a baby. I made sure I taunted the point that she will never hear me call her mom. My dad was furious at me for talking to his wife like that. His wife was acting like she was about to cry for days after and told me that it really hurt her feelings that I was so spiteful towards her. It was horrible for the rest of the week. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. She's getting a good dose of what she dished out to your mom all those years. Tell your dad that he and his wife were good teachers on how to be spiteful. Be happy that soon you can cut them out of your life for good. Am I the jerk for saying that my 401k should be off limits in an otherwise uncontested divorce? My soon-to-be ex-husband, B, and I are working through an uncontested divorce. In looking at our assets and liabilities, he stated he should be owed half of my 401k. I disagree. He commented that the majority of that money contributed was during the 20-year marriage. I commented that we did not sacrifice any household income to contribute to it, and I repeatedly adjusted down how much I contributed to ensure the household stayed running. I had it set up as an automatic 1% increase each year deducted from my paycheck. Edit. He contributed to his whatever he believed he could spare from his check. I never told him how much to contribute or not, other than to encourage him to start saving ASAP once we were married. He didn't have a dime saved before that. The problem is he's looking at strictly the numbers. His current 50K to my 300K, not how we contributed over those years. We both took money out of our individual accounts. He chose to do his as disbursements with tax implications, while mine were as loans that were paid back. I began contributing at 20 years old. He didn't begin until closer to 35. We married when we were 30. Now that we're 50 and divorcing, he thinks it's unfair that I have so much money that he doesn't have. So, am I wrong that I don't think these accounts should be included in the assets? I know legal should be involved in this question. I'm just curious on others' opinions. We're in Texas. We made roughly equal incomes through most of our marriage, within $5,000 of each other. 2024 taxes has him making $69K to my $67K. Paid for house that was purchased in 2002 for $72K. Current tax value estimated at $145K. He agreed to an equity payment of $65K due to the condition of the house. Other assets include a paid-for truck, boat, ATV, and trailer, and a second vehicle that we still owe $25K on. I offered him anything he wanted of joint property. He wants all of the paid-for items except for the house. He wants his half of the equity in the house, which I've told him I can pay him for, but then also acts upset that he has to move. I've offered to allow him to have the house and I'll move, but he doesn't want to have to pay me for my half of the equity because he doesn't want a loan payment. 401ks are not protected in a divorce, I believe. Agree. He will argue that the only way she was able to put in so much was because he was working and paying bills with her. And that's true. It's also the only reason he put so much in his. It turns out splitting bills is really great for savings. Depending on your state laws, the income you put into the 401k will still be considered marital assets from the time your marriage took place, his as well. Some states allow the spouse to forfeit their right, but it sounds like he wants his share. At this point, you're probably going to need to get a lawyer involved that knows your state laws regarding assets, since you have so much more than him. There will need to be a deduction counted for what he owes from his, plus early withdrawal fees that I would require him to pay since he's refusing to give up his share. Get a lawyer, but you likely will have to give him a good chunk of your 401k. You never had so much money. You both had the money. This is how marriage works when you signed up for it. Sounds like neither of you are fit for marriage. Anyways, he'll get half. Fair or not, you will most likely owe just shy of half of it due to his 401k. Assets are assets regardless of who built it up in most community property states. My ex contributed $0 to our savings and less than 5% of the house, and we split everything. If OP was male, complaining that his wife hadn't contributed but wanted half, the pitchforks would be out. Yes, marital is marital regardless of gender. Karen thinks her son deserves honors placement regardless of his grades. I worked in a pretty affluent school district for 14 years and met a lot of entitled parents. These two from my first year of teaching never left my mind though. Obviously, dialogue is not really accurate. As an 8th grade English teacher, it was my job to recommend either Honors English, Level 1 English, or Level 2 English for my students' 9th grade year. Personally, I hated this. I want kids to work to the best of their abilities and not make them feel inferior when they just might not be mentally mature enough for a higher placement yet. Math and science also had to make similar recommendations. To clarify, Level 1 was a normal, rigorous class, probably comparable to the class I was currently teaching. Level 2 was for kids who really struggled with reading and writing. Honors was very intense. Students would write numerous papers that might not even get graded. They would have multiple chapters to read independently each night, frequent tests and quizzes, and no grammar instruction because they should already have mastered it at this point. It was probably appropriate for maybe 20% of my students at most. Math and science were tracked in the same way. Parents never liked this either. Multiple complaints every year, but parents could choose to waive their kids into whichever level they decided. Pretty much never went well. So many kids who would waive into honors would fail quarter 1 and need to drop a level before the end of the semester. On the other hand, if they dominated in level 1, their current teacher could suggest moving them up. These two entitled parents asked for a meeting with me, the math teacher and science teacher. When they joined us in the room we were meeting in, they were absolutely simmering with rage. Their son had not been recommended for any honors classes, and that was not okay. Basically, we explained, kiddo did a good job, did his homework, got solid B's and some A's, did what he was asked. No more, no less. He fit the description of a level 1. Entitled Dad.
Either you are all wrong, or this school has failed our son. He came in with straight A's in elementary school. You obviously didn't teach him well enough, or you placed him incorrectly.
Entitled Mom.
My husband and I graduated from Ivy League schools. Our other 2 kids are in Ivy League schools.
Us. Okay, but we aren't placing them or you. We're placing this kiddo. And pretty much, if you do your work in our elementary schools, you get an A. Entitled Dad.
Well then, you need to give him more time to do better. He obviously wasn't trying.
Us. Honors kids don't need to be warned to try. They just try and succeed because they are really advanced in these areas.
How will he get into a good college if he is a level 1?
Every year, almost all of the senior class goes on to college. Some fantastic colleges too. Plus, if he does well, he can go up a level.
Then put him in honors, and if he does badly, he can move down.
Us. That can be really tough on a kid. To be in a class with others and then have to leave because you can't achieve what they can? Also, the class has to slow down to try to help any kid who isn't grasping the material, and now the whole class is behind. It's much better for a kid's self-esteem to do so well they move up. Also, remember, you can wave him in. Entitled Mom.
We don't want to wave him in. We want you to recommend him.
Entitled Dad.
All of our friends' kids are in honors. How would it look if we had to wave ours in?
Ding, ding, ding. There it is. They can't hold their heads high in the country club if their son is just normal. We ended up saying if he made a drastic improvement by the end of the year, we would reconsider. By the way, he didn't. Even with some incredible papers written at home for my class, weird how he couldn't write as well in class. Parents waved him in. He did horrible in all 3 and ended up back in level 1 for all except science. Ended up passing science by the skin of his teeth. Honestly, my heart goes out to him. That's really difficult, especially if your parents are comparing your success to theirs, your siblings, and your neighbors. Speaking of classes, what was your favorite class in school? Please leave a comment letting me know. Next we've got Delivery Driver Gets His Karma Twice. I was driving down a small country road with a 45-mile-per-hour speed limit that some choose to ignore. And coming up behind me was a standard work truck. I won't name names, but it was a popular automotive parts store delivery truck and got right on my bumper. I'm not in a tiny car, but it's a sedan, and he was so close that all I saw was grille and hood in my mirrors. While I stayed doing the speed limit, after about 3 minutes, he decided that a sharp curve was the perfect time to pass me, and surprise, surprise, there was a car coming after the curve. He swerved at me, and I slammed the brakes, nearly missing his bumper. Thankfully, I had this all on dash cam, front and back. I got home and got the footage on my laptop and called their 1-800 number with his plate number and his truck number. The woman I spoke to was super apologetic, and she asked me to send her the video. She watched it while on the line with me and immediately asked if she could put me on hold. I said yes, and a few minutes go by and she comes back and brings me someone else on the line, the local store manager of that driver. She had sent him the video, and the manager apologized a ton and promised me right then and there that that employee was terminated for their behavior. A few weeks go by, and I don't hear anything till a friend of mine on Facebook sends me a link. The driver that was fired managed to get my name from his HR or manager or something and was trying to find me in real life because he lost his job and made a video wearing his work uniform threatening me because of everything. I went to my local police station about it and showed them the video and explained everything and was told I needed to speak to that company again because they let my name get out. I called them and told them everything going on, and I was told I'd get a call from their HR department within 2 to 3 business days. Literally 6 hours later, I received a call from some higher-up HR person with one of their legal team on the phone. They wanted me to sign a document stating I won't publicly go after them or give negative PR if they sue him for me and get a restraining order and everything on this guy for what he threatened. They even offered to have a lawyer of my choosing go over it with me at no cost to me and sign it and have them handle it. Another few more weeks go by, and that friend on Facebook, he knows that guy's family or something, said that the dude's mom posted some sob story that her son is going through some expensive court case that he likely won't win because the other team is over 10 lawyers. So not only lost his job, but then tried to find me only to have his ex-employer sue him. Next we've got, entitled parent calls my dad a liar because he doesn't look disabled. For some reason, it's almost like my dad and I are entitled parent magnets. When we're together, we usually have some sort of encounter. They're pretty minor most of the time, but occasionally they are absolute horror shows. This is one of those times. Cast. We've got Bug. That's me, your idiotic narrator. We've got Dad, the big guy I happen to share genes with. We've got Entitled Dad, very angry and very overweight man in a minivan. We've got Entitled Mom, the minivan man's wife. She was kinda okay. We've got kids 1 and 2. 2 very annoying kids, probably about 2 to 3 years younger than me. My dad and I haven't always gotten along, so while I was on leave, we tried to hang out as much as possible. So mostly that was us running to the store for groceries and other little things. This encounter happened in a Walmart parking lot, so I am not surprised by the lack of brain cells from the entire entitled family we met. A little backstory might help, so here it is. My dad is a veteran, 100% disabled due to his time overseas, and as a paratrooper when he was younger. This means he is able to park in handicap spots. He does this occasionally when his knees are giving him more issues than their normal pain. Today is one such day. Now a little more about my dad. Dude does not look like he is any sort of disabled. Even though he's pushing 50, he still works out as much as his body will allow him to. Man is still built like a gorilla and looks like he's still an infantryman. But anyway, on to the story. My mom asked my dad and I to head over to the store to pick up some food for dinner. Honestly, we ended up grabbing more snacks than anything, but we got what mom had asked for. As we were checking out, we heard the voice of God. Not really. It was the intercom asking for the owner of the gray Ford F-150 parked in the handicap spot to please come to customer service. Dad. Oh man, if someone stole my truck, I'm gonna cry. Me. Someone probably just doesn't realize that having DV on your license plate means you are a disabled vet. Bet you 20 that's what it is. Him and I finished checking out and headed over to where we were summoned and looked for whoever called for us. The first thing we noticed was the absolute whale of a man, his 2 kids, and his wife standing there. I kid you not. The man's face was beet red, and you probably could have fried an egg on it. Also, to be fair, calling the guy a whale is an overstatement. He probably was only 250 to 275, but that's still fairly heavy. But this is coming from a 150-pound stick bug, so what do I know? Entitled Dad.
Is that your truck? Why the heck did you take up a handicap spot if you're obviously not?
Entitled Mom. Her voice actually would have been pleasant if she wasn't so angry.
My husband has very serious hip issues, and he had to walk from the back of the parking lot to the front of the store because of your rudeness.
Dad. Sir, ma'am, I can park there. I'm a disabled vet. Entitled Dad.
BS. If you're so disabled, you shouldn't be able to maintain your body like that.
Me. Sir, he was injured overseas. Some days it's worse than others, and today his knees keep locking up. My dad then lifted his pants leg to show them his knee braces, which honestly looks like some futuristic exoskeleton make you run fast and jump far kind of thing. The woman immediately looked embarrassed and apologized, something I wish her husband had done. Entitled Dad.
I don't give a crap. I had to risk messing up my hip even more because your sensitive little dad's knees hurt, kid. I have actual pain.
Entitled Mom.
Sir, please forgive my husband. He's just angry right now.
Entitled Dad.
Shut up, Entitled Mom. Let me handle it. Dang it.
My dad and I honestly just wanted to buzz off at that point, so we turned around to walk away when I felt a hand on my shoulder. Kid 1.
Hey, kid, apologize to my dad before you leave, jerk.
Now most stories would be like, this kid didn't realize I was a black belt in every form of hand-to-hand combat, but I'm a realist and don't enjoy fighting very much. Me. Bro, I don't have to apologize for crap, so let me go. Kid 1.
No, jerk. My dad could have hurt his hip from walking because of you two. Apologize.
Me. I don't think I want to. At that point, I was mad from this kid having his grimy high school hand on my shoulder, so I yanked his hand off of me and started to walk away.
Hey, forget you, kid.
My dad and I just walked away and got into the truck. When we shut our doors, we both burst out laughing because of the Entitled Dad's idiocy and his kid's rudeness. Dad. Hey man, I'm proud of you for not starting a fight or anything. Thanks for standing up for me too, but I had it. Me. I was standing up for you? Nah man, I was just making sure he didn't realize you were disabled, so I won the bet. Dad. Never mind, you're a jerk. Me. Yeah, I get it from my dad. And that's it. No big scene or climax or anything. Nobody got arrested. We just went home and made some enchiladas and had a few bowls of ice cream afterwards. Speaking of ice cream, what is your favorite flavor of ice cream? Please pause this right now and leave a comment letting me know. Next we've got, entitled customer tries to return something we don't even sell. So I spent about a year working in a shop that sold equipment and supplies for disabled or elderly people. Walking sticks, wheelchairs, electric scooters, and other, more personal sundries. I actually liked the job, and all things being equal, I'd still be working there today, but that's a story for another day. Anyways, this incident happened on a Saturday, so I was alone in the shop. An older gentleman, I'd say mid to late 60s, came in carrying a plastic bag. He walks up to the counter where I'd been refilling the boxes of those rubber ends for walking sticks and crutches, and I said hello and asked how I could help him.
I bought this the other day, but it's no good.
He placed the bag down on the counter.
I'd like to return it.
I didn't recognize him, but figured that the manager must have served him, so I automatically asked if he has the receipt. He produced a sheet of paper, A4 paper, which seemed a little odd. Most items we sold came with just a regular till receipt, while larger items had a 3-layer white, yellow, pink form. White copy went with the customer, yellow in our records, and pink to the tax man. Most of what we sold was VAT-free, so we needed to keep records of what we sold and to who. However, what he offered me wasn't the flimsy receipt I was expecting, but just a regular sheet of printer paper. I looked at it and saw that it was from another shop, maybe a mile away across the other side of the town center. "Oh, you bought this from the other shop?"
Yes,
He nods.
your other shop. The one on this road.
"No, we're a different company." I point to my name badge, which clearly states who I work for. "They're the other company."
Yes, but you're the same.
He insists. "We sell similar products, but we're a completely different company." I opened the bag to see what was inside. I honestly can't remember exactly what it was, but while we sold similar items that did the same job, we had never sold that particular item. It even had the price label on it, which clearly stated that it was, indeed, from the other shop. "We don't even sell this. You'll have to take it back to the other shop."
I don't want to walk all the way down there.
He exclaimed. And that much I could get behind, given it was raining pretty heavily that day.
I want you to refund it now.
"I'm sorry, sir, but I can't give you a refund for something that you didn't buy from us, and we don't even sell."
But you're the same.
He repeated, more insistently this time. "No, we sell similar products, but they're a completely different company." I so wanted to pinch the bridge of my nose while I struggled to come up with a comparison he might understand. It would be like buying something from supermarket A, then wanting to return it to supermarket B. They're both supermarkets, but they're not the same company.
But you're the same.
He repeated yet again. At this point, I'm starting to wonder if he had some sort of dementia. But aside from his inability to grasp the concept that two shops could sell similar items and yet not be the same company, he seemed fine. "No, sir, we are not." I do my level best not to sound condescending. "We are this shop. They are the other shop. We have no connection with them besides selling similar items. If you want to return this, you will have to go to the other shop."
Are you going to give me my refund or not?
He asks, clearly convinced that I'm trying to get out of refunding him his money. "No, sir." I remain calm. "I cannot refund you for something that you did not buy from us." He muttered something about trading standards and the police, then stormed off out of the shop, leaving his item and receipt behind. I put them back in the bag and put the bag under the counter and called the owner. I explained what happened, which quickly had him laughing, and he told me to just leave it under the counter in case the man came back, and if he did, give him the number for the main office. The shop I worked at was one of 4 the company operated. The man never came back, and we never got contacted by trading standards or the police. As far as I know, the bag, the item, and the receipt are still in the stock room to this day. As an aside, the other shop closed suddenly, as in the owner left in the middle of the night, not even telling the staff, after they were caught by trading standards selling a secret shopper something completely unsuitable for their stated needs, but cost twice as much as what they actually needed was. I, on the other hand, always made sure I sold someone the best fit for their needs, even going so far as to refuse a sale once. But again, a story for another day. Next we've got,
Nice try, Karen, but you're not my mother. Where this story takes place is actually the only motel my parents have managed thus far. It's pretty old, and a lot of things have to be manually done or switched on or off. So it was a Friday and early evening. I was heading down to the opposite side of the hotel to turn on the exterior lights, the electronic sign, parking lot lights, etc. This motel didn't have all doors with electronic locks, so the door I had to get through was actual lock and key. So I'm walking down past all the rooms when a door behind me opens. I keep walking, barely throwing a glance over my shoulder. I eventually make it towards the end and am just about to pull out the key when I hear rapid footsteps. I turn around, stopping another wild Karen in her tracks. Alright, she didn't really look like a Karen, but I had been in the lobby when she checked in, and yeah, no doubt about it. For a second, she actually hesitates to talk, almost fooling me into thinking, oh, great spaghetti monster, was I wrong about her? Ha, nope. Karen begins to berate me for not being behind the desk and getting her food. What the heck? It's a motel. Where does she think she is? La expensive hotel? I tell her in a mocking way, since I honestly gave zero hoots about what she said. Oh, sure. Let me just snap my fingers and conjure food from the non-existent kitchen, Your Highness. She did not like that. I was sure she would start yelling at me for mocking her, but nope. You're a witch? Once more, I ask, what the heck? This just took a turn that made me long for a big stick to smack her upside the head with, because something was obviously just rolling around up there. Maybe if I did it hard enough, I could make her qualified to be shipped up to the loony bin or the funny farm. I start laughing in her face, mostly from my own thoughts. Her face starts to turn this shade of red that makes me laugh even harder, because it makes her look like the tomato from VeggieTales in a blonde wig. Why are you laughing? I'm the manager's wife, and I can fire you. Still laughing, I'm bent over trying to breathe properly with tears streaming down my face from laughing so hard. That makes me start snorting from breathing in and out at the same time. I know that's total BS. I wrote in my first post about my parents, right? My parents are the collective manager here. She has no idea. I eventually take a deep breath, clench my nails into my palms, and look this Karen straight in the eyes. You'd fire your own daughter, ma'am? I later told my mother about this, and she kind of found it insulting I'd say that. My mom is so much better looking, according to my father. Karen looks so dumbfounded by what I'd said that I have to actually turn my head towards the side completely so she's out of my line of vision so I don't start my laughing fit again. She huffs angrily and walks away. I turn on the lights and think that's the end of it. Nope. The morning shift typically has to clean up breakfast, and since I was helping my dad, who at the time was suffering from something unknown in his legs that made it painful to walk, I was the one that was cleaning up breakfast. It's from 6 to 9, and it was about 15 minutes from 10. I was just wiping down the counter now. Nothing was left from breakfast on the counter except for coffee for guests. I go into the back office and started washing dishes, which means that my dad has to keep his ear out for the door chime to go off, signaling that someone has come in. I am in the middle of washing dishes when I hear yelling coming from the front. I'm greatly concerned for my dad and rush towards the office, grabbing my phone from the desk in case I had to call 911. I didn't. Lo and behold, Karen had arrived. She was yelling at my dad about how there was no breakfast set out, how he was a jerk employee and she knew the manager. Yeah, well, she did. She was talking to him after all. My dad kept trying to explain breakfast hours were over and they were under no obligation to keep it open for her, even pointing to the sign right behind his head that stated the hours too. Karen was not having it. She saw me as soon as I walked in. And your employee cursed me last night when I was simply asking for directions. No, she didn't say cursed at me. I have to do the whole nails in palm trick to not start laughing at the memory, because I would no doubt get in trouble for that. My dad turns to me and gives me this questioning look. I shake my head and shrug. Ma'am, she's not a— I want her fired right now! Well, as we say in the industry, the customer is unfortunately always right. My dad turns to me, his face away from Karen, and gives me a grin before saying, You heard the lady. You're fired. I give him a returning grin. Okay, Dad, I'll go finish the dishes. Karen starts sputtering nonsense, but my dad turns to her and says, Is there anything else I can help you with? Karen demands to see the manager. Now in the back office, a few steps away from the open door that separates the office from front desk,
I watched my dad stroll into the office in quite a bit of pain, which made me mad. Close the door, wait a minute before he walks back out and says, "I'm the manager here, and I'm asking you to leave the property." Karen screams,
Well then, I'm not paying.
"Okay, guess what? You already paid at check-in with cash that requires a $50 deposit, so therefore, you're not getting it back." My dad shrugs, and I walk out from behind the desk a moment later to refill the coffee pot where Karen has moved to get some. That's right, she didn't leave. Karen starts yelling at me now. It's endless screaming and yelling.
What the heck are you doing? You're fired.
I smirk and tell her two things. 1, I'm the manager's daughter and not actually an employee. 2, the coffee here is for paying guests, and since you clearly stated you're not paying, you can't have any. The coffee was out anyways, so she couldn't get any even if she tried. Karen, now understanding why I had called her mom the previous night, storms off. I don't see her again for the rest of the weekend. Which, too, Wild Karen 0. I had an office food thief, so I bought a hidden camera. A few things about me that made it really lame to have a food thief. I have a lot of food allergies, so I can't just get lunch at the cafeteria or at a nearby restaurant. Because I have a new baby, half the time I don't manage to show up at work with a lunch. I either run out of time to pack one, or if I did remember, I leave it on the counter. My solution to all of this was to leave lots of non-perishable snacks in my office, and also a lot of candy, because I also have a 3-year-old, and therefore work is the only place I can shovel Skittles into my mouth without a little hand extending into the field of vision and a little voice saying please. Snacks that were specifically free of my allergens, some of which were specialty foods because of this. The type of specialty food that just doesn't taste as good as food that contains the allergen, and also costs twice as much. Because I'm not getting a lot of sleep right now, I deserve nice things. So, because I'm not getting a lot of sleep right now, when I first came back from maternity leave, assembled my snack hoard, and started having things go missing, I genuinely thought I was just losing my mind. Boxes of candy were running out faster than I thought I was eating them. I'd come in the morning, and things wouldn't be where I left them. At one point, I brought a bag of chips to work, folded the rim of the bag down so I wasn't plunging my arm, elbow deep into the grease pit, and then put a bag clip on it when I went home. And when I came in the next morning, the bag was unrolled and re-clipped. I went, wow, I must be more tired than I thought. Rolled the bag back down, and the next morning it was unrolled again. Just little things like that, almost every day, that made me go, wow, the post-baby brain is worse than I thought. And then I got the flu. I got the flu, and I was out for a whole week. Left behind at the office was an almost full box of Enjoy Life cookies, which are not enjoyable, but are free of all major allergens, and are also $5 a box, for like 12 sad little sand pies with some cinnamon on top. I ate one row of these cookies, and then I was out of the office for a week. For 1 week, I was not eating any of my snack hoard. But someone else was. Because I came back to work, opened my box of cookies, and found one. There was one single solitary cookie left. And on further examination, the one box of candy that had been opened was nowhere near to be found. And on top of that, the thief had done me the courtesy of opening a new box for me. Except that they actually followed the push here to open instructions instead of just ripping one end of the box like I do. Which they should darn well know at this point, because by this time, they had been stealing from me for 2 whole months. The combination of these two things, the sheer audacity it takes to open a new box so you can continue stealing from someone, on top of the consumption of almost a whole box of specialty cookies that aren't even good, enraged me enough that, after going to my boss and getting some vague promises about checking if the security cameras in my wing of the building are functional or not, I went straight to Amazon and ordered myself a nanny cam. Not for my baby, for my snack hoard. Conveniently, it arrived the day before Valentine's Day. I set it up on top of a file cabinet looking down at my desk. On the desk, I laid out a fantastic spread of baked snacks. I got all my thief's favorites, and then I took it one step further. I bought myself a Valentine heart, broke the seal to make it more inviting, and left it out on my desk. The next morning, I came in to see some very obvious snack carnage. My thief had slowly been getting more brazen. Again, who opens a new box of something and opens it differently than the person they're stealing from? But this was just on another level. Individually wrapped things had been dumped out of their boxes. Bits of packaging had been thrown away. And yup, they had eaten some of the Valentine candy. For shame, office thief. Don't you know that's from someone who loves me? I played back the video. All was quiet throughout most of the evening, and I was just watching the shadows lengthen as the sun slowly set through the hallway window. And then, shortly before midnight, the night janitor arrived and went right ahead and took a 12-minute break in my office, sitting in my chair, eating my food. I started taking screenshots. I got him shoveling candy into his mouth with full palm-to-lips intensity, pouring things out onto the desk to pick his favorite flavors, not even bothering to put them back where he found them. And yes, eating my Valentine's candy. Screenshots went directly to my boss in an email. I went directly to my boss's door to hover and grin and ask if he had read my email. And I got assurance of a strongly worded email to the cleaning company and the barring of this particular employee from our place of business. I was also tactfully asked to please take my unauthorized spy camera home, which I did. I thought this was over until the girl who works the concession stand dropped by to thank me. Apparently, the food thief would start his shift just as she was closing down for the night and would try to get free coffee in that creepy guy way. One of the reception staff came by with the same sentiments. I'd never met the guy face to face, but apparently, as a woman, it was not a fun experience to have. I'd shown my screenshots to a few coworkers. Who's eating 5 rabbits and a long coat's food had become office gossip by this point, and word had spread fast. I worked an earlier shift, so I didn't recognize him, but people whose shifts overlapped with his did. I hadn't told my husband about what I'd done because when I came home raging about the blatant theft that had gone on while I'd had the flu, his only response had been, "You really shouldn't be leaving food at work then." But when I came home with the nanny cam and explained where and why I'd gotten it, his reaction surprised me. "You know, I think this is the first time I've seen you stand up for yourself. I'm proud of you." You know what, Reddit? I'm proud of me too. Speaking of snacks, what are your favorites? Please pause the video and leave a comment letting me know. Next we've got entitled customer loses it because we gave him the soda he ordered. For context, both my parents were born and raised in Iowa, but my siblings and I have spent most of our childhoods in varying states of the US because my dad was in the Army. We moved to Georgia after his retirement from the military, and while I personally have moved back to Iowa for culinary school, my mom and all of my siblings still live in Georgia. After I graduated from high school, I started working at a popular chicken restaurant in the South that is unfortunately not available up north. One of the biggest reasons I'm looking forward to visiting my family this summer, to be perfectly honest. My older sister 2 from my previous post, who also worked at the same location and helped me get the job because it was my first job ever and I was inexperienced. I learned quickly enough, and it's still one of my favorite jobs to date. Sister 2 was one of the best workers at the store, as well as the favorite of several of the managers. Even though not a single family member of ours lives in the town where that particular store is, she still goes there occasionally to visit her old coworkers. On to the story. Sister 2 and I were both working the drive-thru that day, along with another employee, who we'll call coworker. It was a busy time in the store, so Jordan was going back and forth between the drive-thru and the front registers. My sister and I were just fine on our own though, so we didn't mind that he was flip-flopping. So this guy, the entitled dad, comes through the drive-thru with several kids screaming in the back seat. He orders an entree for himself, and since it was Wednesday, he was able to get 2 free kids meals with that. Since he was the only adult in the car, he had to pay full price for the other 2 kids meals. While working out his order, he and my sister have a conversation that goes something like this. Entitled dad: "Can I get a Coke with my meal?" Sister 2: "Of course, what kind?" Keep in mind, this is the South, and while us Northerners say Coke and mean Coca-Cola, many Southerners use the word Coke to describe any Coke product, and given that the soda machine this restaurant had was one of those Coke freestyle ones where you can get any Coke product ever, this was a necessary clarification. Entitled Dad.
What? Are you an idiot? A Coke?
Me. Sister 2, he doesn't have an accent. He probably means Coca-Cola. The 4 oldest of us were mostly raised among people with Midwestern accents, so most Southerners have an accent to us. Sister 2. You're right. She tells Entitled Dad his total, and he goes up to the window. Evidently, Sister 2's clarification put him in a foul mood, and instead of acting like a civilized human being, he throws his credit card at Sister 2 from his car window for her to process the transaction. Sister 2 has her silent rage face on, but she's been working food service even longer than I have, and she has therefore seen worse, so she says nothing. I wrote down his license plates, then check on Entitled Dad's order and give it to him. Entitled Dad.
Can you believe your stupid coworker? What kind of Coke? Honestly.
Me. Sir, that stupid coworker is my sister, so I would advise you to stand down. I'm the only one allowed to call her stupid. Sister 2 laughs at this because I have never called her stupid in our lives. She's much smarter than me, and we both know it. Entitled Dad.
Well, maybe you should call her stupid for asking what kind of Coke.
Me. In case you haven't noticed, many Southerners call soda of any kind Coke, so of course she had to clarify. Sister 2 gives Entitled Dad his Coke, which he takes a sip of and promptly spits out.
I wanted Diet Coke.
Sister. You asked for Coke. That is Coke. You should have clarified Diet Coke when I asked. Entitled Dad.
Shut up.
And he throws the Coke at her, soaking her uniform. I was seriously ready to throw hands because that's my sister, and he just threw a soda at her. I give him back his card and tell him to kindly buzz off with my customer service smile while coworker goes to grab a manager. Entitled Dad.
Give me my Diet Coke and comp my kids' meals for your stupid mistake.
I simply shut the window and wait for Awesome Manager. Awesome Manager. What happened here? Sister. He threw the drink he ordered at me because he failed to mention he wanted diet when I asked. Awesome Manager opens the window.
Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Not until I get my money back from your stupid employees, and that tiny jerk gets fired.
Manager. Fired for what?
She told me to buzz off.
Manager. OP, is this true? Sister. Of course not. Entitled Dad.
It's true. Check your cameras.
Manager. Fine, but I must ask you to leave the drive-thru. You're holding up the line. Entitled Dad yells again and speeds into the parking lot, leaving his kids in the car and storming inside. Manager. Are you sure you didn't? Me. Of course not. Manager, you know me. Entitled Dad comes inside, his face contorting with rage as he spots me cleaning up the mess he made.
That little jerk called me names.
Manager. I highly doubt that, but since you kindly asked, sarcasm, we can check the cameras. Awesome Manager checks the cameras and sees Entitled Dad throwing stuff at my sister and sees my customer service smile as I told Entitled Dad to buzz off. I did not call him names, but since I was smiling and Manager can't read lips to save his life, he takes mine and sister's side and asks Entitled Dad to pay to have sister's uniform replaced.
Heck no, she messed up my order.
Manager. I can clearly see you throwing things at her. Of course, we could press charges if sister wishes. Sister had been cleaning herself up in the bathroom, so I take a guess as to what she'd want. Me. She isn't very confrontational, so I think she'll settle for you paying the damages.
Nobody asked you.
Me. Manager, I changed my mind. I think after seeing Entitled Dad's attitude toward her sister, my sister would love to press charges. Entitled Dad.
My brother is a lawyer. I'll have your entire restaurant closed down.
Manager whispering to me. OP, did you get Entitled Dad's plates? Me. I wrote them down as soon as he started getting nasty. Entitled Dad.
What are you whispering about? I'll get both of you fired.
Manager. Sir, I'm going to ask you again to leave or I will call the police.
Fine. Your restaurant is nasty anyways.
Entitled Dad storms out. I gave Awesome Manager the napkin I wrote the license plates down on, and Manager stays in the office to call the cops. Sister did not want to press charges like I predicted, but we were both allowed to go home early. I stayed to help coworker in the drive-thru until the rush died down and left with sister after. Since her pants were ruined, I bought her a new pair at Walmart before we went home. This took place shortly before sister went back to college and I started college after the summer. So I still don't know if Entitled Dad ever got justice. Usually when telling this story in real life, I embellish the ending with a court battle in which Entitled Dad gets totally owned. But unfortunately, that didn't actually happen. A person can dream though. What's your favorite flavor of Coke, if you know what I mean? Please leave a comment letting me know. Next we've got Entitled Parent tries taking disabled mother's parking spot, gets humiliated. Okay, so this story happened something like 20 years ago, so my memory of the exact details are somewhat hazy. My mother has multiple sclerosis, and over the almost 30 years since she was diagnosed, it has taken her ability to walk. Today she needs a wheelchair just to get around the house, and sometimes has trouble transferring from the wheelchair to her armchair or bed. But this event took place back when she could still get by with a wheeled walking frame over short distances, and only needed a wheelchair if it involved extended distances, such as, for instance, doing the weekly shop at the local supermarket. I can't remember exactly how old I was when this happened, but it must have been before I got my driver's license, as I was sitting in the passenger seat when this happened. I was going shopping with my mom, so I could push the trolley and do any heavy lifting while she got around in her wheelchair. We arrived at the supermarket and only the very last disabled parking bay was free. Not a problem, as we only needed one. The car park was very clearly laid out and marked as being one way, meaning that you were expected to go the long way around if you missed a bay, which is why we were surprised when we encountered a car coming the other way, trying to get into the same parking space. Cue classic 2 cars, 1 space scene. We've all been there. Windows are rolled down so my mother and the other driver can discuss what's happening. I will be paraphrasing due to not remembering the exact wording. Entitled Parent: That's my space. Mom: You came the wrong way. Entitled Parent:
I know, but I need that space for my daughter.
I look over and there's a baby seat in the back of the other car. Mom: Is your daughter disabled?
No.
Mom: Then you need to use the family bays. The supermarket had more family bays than it had disabled bays, so they were just a little further from the doors. Entitled Parent:
Those are too far to walk with my kid.
Mom: Well, at least you can walk. This line I remember perfectly. Now, my mother has never been one to use her disability as an excuse. Even today, she tries to do as much as she possibly can for herself, but she is not one to stand by and let people sideline or take advantage of her because of it. Entitled Parent turns a truly wonderful shade of green, my mother's words having cut through her defenses and scored a critical hit. She backs up and makes her way over to the family bays, allowing us to park in peace. While we were in the supermarket, I happened to catch a glimpse of Entitled Parent as she pushed her daughter around in a trolley. She saw my mom in her wheelchair and did a quick 180 and walked off, appropriately ashamed of her previous actions. I like to think that maybe we stopped her from turning into a full Karen that day.
Imagine your spouse's mom keeps making fake AI photos of you and posting them on Facebook. That's exactly what happens in our next story. It just popped up on your screen. Give it a tap and come have a listen. You won't believe what happens next.